Are we yet not now more segregated in the inner cities than we were before? Are we not now more segregated in our schools than we were before? Are we not now more unemployed than we were before? Are we not now populating the prisons of America much more than we were before? Are we not now much more addicted to drugs and various other injurious habits than we were before? Are we now not more subject to racial strife than we were before? Is not criminality rampant in our neighborhoods? Are not our children not learning as much as they did before? What did that fantasy gain us? What did this striving for merger with our enemies gain us? Some of us then have started to come a bit to reality. We recognize then some 40 years almost after the 1954 Supreme Court decision that the largest percentage of us are no better off and many of us are worse off than we were at that time. After a generation of assimilationist fantasies, we find ourselves as a people without an educational agenda, still stumbling around trying to find out the best methods for educating our children, still struggling with concepts of African-centered education, multicultural education, integrated education, Head Start, and all the other nefarious multitudes of programs and projects and titles and entitlements that have only left us confused and basically ignorant and left our problems unresolved. After a generation of assimilationist fantasies, we find ourselves without a cultural agenda. Who are we? Where are we? Where are we going? Where did we come from? After a generation of assimilationist fantasies, we find ourselves without an economic agenda, suffering economically. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute, because the economic situation of African people in the world today is alarming and will soon get worse. Oh yeah, there's some of you out there can point to a few Negroes who've made it up. You know, a part of fantasy is to believe in fairy tales. And one of the standard endings of fairy tales is, and they live happily ever after. So that was this great fantasy, a part of the assimilationist fantasy that said, you know, once we integrate with white folk, and once we go to school with them, and once we break down the barriers to employment and all this other kind of stuff, we will live happily ever after. And yet, you know, history did not justify this belief at all. As I've said on many occasions, people progress in history, but they also what? Regress. All of this happens in history. People may integrate in history, but they also do what? Disintegrate in history as well. Black Americans believe in the American idea of progress, that things must necessarily get better than they were before. Who told you that lie? There is no law in the universe that promises any individual or any people that things necessarily get better than they were before. We've seen nations and peoples and civilizations do what? Rise, mature, and what? Fall. We've seen literally races and ethnic groups disappear from the face of this earth. We can witness on this very continent the near decimation of the Native American. We can look at our own history, the history of the Reconstruction era, the history of the 1870s and and 1880s, when blacks could vote, when blacks were elected to Senate, when blacks were elected to Congress, when blacks were parts of state legislatures, when blacks were sheriffs, when blacks headed corporations, when blacks had strong civil rights legislation. And yet, all of this was taken from us. And it took literally 100 years for black people to get the same thing back.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another broadcast on the forecast. Yeah. And shit, this time it might take 200 years to get it back. But anyway, yo, shouts out to everybody who will come through, who is out there. Much love to y'all. And hopefully y'all can hear me. Let me know if y'all can hear me. I guess I'm gonna check it myself. I guess all right, I'm good. What's up, my brother Anthony? Shouts out to you, my brother. I'm just gonna talk about Black history today. We're just gonna go back through more of the Black history thing. And really, I know I need to be more consistent. And I said either Sundays or Mondays, but I don't like being tied to no schedule. But it is what it is. All right, that's what's up, my brother. That's what's up. All right. So with that being said, I guess let's just get into it. But yeah, I'm gonna try to be more consistent, my brother. And I don't know what's up with the technical difficulties that I've been having. For some reason, in the middle, the sound just goes out, and that's why I go out and come back in. But just to let y'all know, because for some reason the audio goes in and out. But anyway, so let's just get back to where we were. Separated themselves from black people. They
See,
refused
I
to
can't
get
even hear
involved
it.
in any kind of slavery issue because they didn't want to piss off their white side. And some of them were children or the relatives of slave owners, and a lot of them were free and they had the same mindset. They attended the same churches. They could get married in them. But they start saying, well, you're not a white person, right? When they start getting this American white nationalist identity. Even though some of them could pass for white and had slaves themselves. But since they got excluded from the white side, they didn't want to be bothered with the black side. So they made their own and called themselves brown. Now, as much as they wanted to be accepted and recognized by whites, at least of being in a higher class than us. All right, and we talked about this last time, but we'll get back to, and it'll come up again, trust me. All right, this whole mulatto situation, it will come back up again. And like I said, man, like when I say the stuff that I say, it's not out of nowhere. It's not out of a vacuum, right? It's the fact that history repeats itself over and over and over. But we'll skip
First
past this part for right
immigration
now.
law in America, which was the Naturalization Act of 1790.
I'm going to give you a brief overview of citizenship rights in early America. Who was considered a citizen? Did having citizenship mean that you had the right to vote? How did citizenship and voting rights change over time? So let's go back to the beginning when the US Constitution took effect in 1789. Shortly thereafter, Congress passed the first Federal Naturalization Act of 1790. Remember that naturalization is the process by which someone becomes a citizen. That act said that any free white person of good character could be a U.S. citizen. They had to live in the United States for 2 years. Later, they changed it to 5 years. And in the state where they applied for citizenship for at least 1 year, and then take an oath to support the Constitution. Who did that include and who did it exclude? Any white man who wasn't an indentured servant was eligible to become a citizen and therefore enjoy all of the protections listed in the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Single or widowed white women could become citizens on their own. Married white women and the children of naturalized citizens also inherited citizenship from their husbands and fathers. Having U.S. citizenship didn't automatically mean that you could vote. States control elections, not the federal government, and most states at this time had property requirements for voting. The Naturalization Act of 1790 excluded a lot of people who lived in the United States from being eligible for citizenship. Indigenous people were not eligible to become citizens. People of African descent, both those who were enslaved and those who were free, were not eligible to become citizens. Although some states did permit free Black men to own property and vote if they met those property requirements. That shows us another example of how voting rights and citizenship were not necessarily intertwined. However, over the course of the next 40 years or so, whiteness became more and more synonymous with voting rights in the United States. By the 1830s, almost all states had removed their property requirements for voting and instead permitted any free white man over the age of 21 to vote. And as state legislatures rewrote these laws, the states that had permitted propertied Black men to vote now outlawed them from doing so.
Now, the Naturalization Act only granted citizenship to free white persons of good character.
Now, of course, we know who they let into their club.
Yeah, because that's a oxymoron, or what do they call it, a contradiction. Free white persons of good character. That's funny.
Is a whole different category from what we know as white.
But anyway, now that America was officially a white nation, many states adopted laws that required free Black people to leave the state within a certain time,
Or they be punished. And a lot of times that would be enslaving them. So we see the mindset that they have of making this a white nation. But at the same time, their whole economy and foundation is based off slavery, which they need Black people for. And before we end this, is one more.
All right. And so, all right, let's look at this, the Naturalization Act. See, now we're not going to go through this long ass thing here.
How American
Well, I guess this one.
citizenship became a racial issue. The Nationality Act of 1790. In 1790, the new Congress passed the Naturalization Act, referred to as the Nationality Act of 1790. Congress limited the right to citizenship to free white persons. In practice,
Now, look at this, right? And you see who's always addicted to your stuff here, right? So he was like, "Oh, it wasn't an issue until 1965." Like they think this lame stuff, like saying the same. They all say the same thing, and they think it's like funny or as low Neanderthal IQ. I don't know. All right, see, this is who you see on Black stuff, right? Especially when it comes to Black history, because they study us more than anybody. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
only white male property owners could naturalize and acquire the status of citizens, whereas women, non-white persons, and indentured servants could not. Access to citizenship would become more expansive over time, although the racial restriction was not eliminated entirely until 1952. It had a zero quota on Black immigrants. The Naturalization Act of
I finally realized why all the big itself. Employees choose for
Ethiopian war. We have a new Naturalization Act, and
My
it's
bad. This is a long ass
exclusively
lecture on
people
it.
of African nativity or descent. So now you have a situation where to become a citizen, you have to be either white or of African nativity or descent. So essentially, we're starting to think about
how
All right.
American citizenship became a racial issue.
My bad. Let's see.
This is Erica Trinnell with the Nativa Alliance Nativa Party. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please click the link. Let's talk about how people were written into the U.S. system, because citizenship wasn't a birthright at first. It was a political decision created on paper, step by step. 179, the first Naturalization Act. The very first law about citizenship said only free white persons could become citizens. Everyone else,
Yo, what's going on, Raw?
the indigenous nations, the melanated people already on this land, and anyone of African or Asian descent was excluded. This is where the system literally decided who counted as human under their new government. This is Erica Trinell.
All right, so y'all basically get it, I guess. I hope. It's your birthright. It's your damn it.
This country. And why are we still debating who gets to be an American citizen?
Oh, if you have to debate it, you might not be it.
Why did the founders enslave people, exclude women, and ignore the ones that actually built this country? And why are we still debating who gets to be an American citizen in 2025? This isn't just about history. It's about right now. Welcome back to the Real Freedom Story.
Shouts out to Karma 804 in the building. Appreciate you for coming through. Much love to you. But yeah, I mean, if it's something you got to debate, I mean, that might be your answer there. But I'm not gonna go in on that today. See, that's the thing. Like, y'all want me to be like, oh yeah, we're citizens, and all we have to do is just fight for our rights, and they're gonna respect us, and they're gonna learn one day. Like, if I did that, then like people would like listen and stuff like that. Like, because y'all need that say. But when I be like, yo, hey, we don't have no friends, no good ones. We all we got. We have to build our own. Like, no, now I'm an extremist. You know what I'm saying? But I'll let y'all debate about it for another couple of decades.
Founders meant when they said all men, and we're gonna understand.
I'll let my replacement deal with y'all for real. So I'm just gonna be here doing my thing, and I'll let my replacement. It ain't me; it's an energy, so it's bigger than me. So whoever replaces me, he gonna have to deal with it, or she.
And how that shaped and still shapes America as far as who is respected, protected, and represented in this democracy. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like for history that you won't learn in your textbook. Let's make no mistake, the debates that we see today around birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment are not new. This is just history repeating itself. The Declaration of Independence.
Sure is.
Kiss on paper. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. When those words were written, let me hold your hand when I say this, they weren't meant for everyone. The founders built a democracy for people that looked like them. White, wealthy, Christian, male, property owning, educated, and yes, many of them enslaved. 25 of the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence were in fact enslavers of other human beings. And while the Constitution never explicitly states the institution that is slavery, it made room for it. The 3/5 Compromise is the perfect example. When our Congress was built, and it's made up of two chambers, the Senate and the House, when they were deciding what the population would be for the South, they made sure in order to not give the South an unfair advantage when it came to population.
Okay, we talked about that already, y'all.
Right after the Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal, it has another part. The Declaration says that the government gets its power from the consent of the governed. But who is actually considered a part of the governed? I'll tell you who wasn't. Definitely not Black people, free or enslaved, indigenous people, immigrants, women, and poor white people who didn't own property or were not considered properly educated. But when the 1790 Naturalization Act came, it made it crystal clear who citizens and the governed were in the United States. Only free white persons could become citizens. And even among white women, they still couldn't vote, couldn't own property once they were married, and couldn't defend themselves in court, especially not against their own husbands. But in the case of enslaved Black women, it was even worse. They couldn't even defend themselves against their own enslavers. In 1855, a young Black girl from Missouri had murdered her enslaver, and she was executed because she had no right, according to the court in Missouri, to defend herself because she was not a citizen. She was property. So when they say all men, let me ask you again, who does that include? Let's fast forward now to the end of the Civil War. The 14th Amendment is ratified in 1868.
All right. She's skipping ahead. We're not there yet. That's like another.
But we're actually living up to those words in the United
60
States
years.
that all men were created equal. Until it includes people like you and me, then the work for this country to live up to its promises is far from finished. If this video taught you something new or made you think.
Now, okay, I'm not going to say nothing. So let's talk about it. So this birthright citizenship has been a conversation. Now, you know my opinion about the citizen thing, but y'all don't want to hear my opinions or my advice based off of all of the history that I've talked about. But, you know, let's listen to what
I am
my brother
a lot
and
of
Miss
us
Karen Hunter got to say.
on here, citizens of this country, and we're going to talk about birthright citizenship in a second. And we're joined by the Attorney General from the great state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison, who's also the first Muslim elected to Congress from the same great state of Minnesota. He has been, as he mentioned, a public defender. He has been
Black man first, though.
many different ways. He actually helped one of the organizers of the Million Man March at some point. You can read all of that in his book, My Country 'Tis of Thee, and more to come. The rule of law. We play a clip by Letitia James every day, and she talks.
I know it pisses people off when I be like, because we want to be American citizens so bad, you know, and I be trying to. I tell y'all, hey, I could be wrong. Teach me where this has changed. You know what I'm saying? But if you, as Malcolm X said, if you need another bill to, like, the Constitution should be enough for you. You know what I mean? The 13th, 14th Amendment. That's it. You know what I'm saying? You don't need no Civil Rights Act of 1860 something. Oh, I'm sorry, of 1960. Oh, I'm sorry, of 2025, 2020, whatever year it is.
About the rule of law is on our side. For a lot of us, we feel like, we were, this is unconstitutional. This is wrong. And we're right. But I always say, like, the law is only as good as it can be enforced, number one, but also who are they targeting? If it's against the law to put an air freshener
Also, who's enforcing it?
Rearview mirror, they're only targeting certain people. They're only pulling over certain people. So we're now in the reverse world where people are getting away with.
Who you talking about? This brother here, Keith Ellison? Now, my brother, the thing is, you would be probably considered an extremist. He's a normal brother compared to us. You know what I'm saying? If we talk like that, then people would listen. You know what I'm saying? But we would be leading them into the wrong direction. You know what I'm saying? So we'll just have to be outcast until then. But people give away their position based off of certain things that they say and what they do, and it's red flags. And I guess I'm the nicest with this, where I can understand it. Like, Cassidra sees it right away. She can spot it from a mile away. Like, she's good. Like, and you can warn people, like, yo, you might want to stay away from this person. But Black people love so much. You know what I'm saying? We love so much that we get whatever we get coming.
Doing everything unlawful, and those of us who have been under the law, like oppressed by the law, are sitting there going, what is happening? And it makes us disheartened. I'm going to speak for myself. It's very disheartening to watch the flaunting of what we know to be right and wrong in this criminal enterprise that we seem to be
That ain't right. That ain't right.
What do you talk to us about hope?
Lord have mercy, y'all.
What do we hold on?
Yeah, I'm losing mine. Shouts out to Jesse Jackson.
About hope. What do we hold on to, Keith Ellison?
Well, here's what I want to say is that, look, friends, if you do a little bit of history.
Yeah, that's what Obama came. He came and gave us hope. Damn it. Hell, I ain't buy into it. I was young and naive, but if I was who I am now, I would have bought into it. I should have voted for him the first time, but I did not, But I should have, just for the culture. Now the second time, I did the right thing. But
historical exploration, you will find out that we were not the first people who had a tyrannical, radical federal government. As a matter of fact, it could safely be said that Black people lived under racial dictatorship before 1968. Just as a matter of fact.
And
I mean,
after 1960.
Trump is kind of oppressing.
My brother, you was here. Am I tripping? Was Ronald Reagan good or something? Was Nixon and them, like the Reaganomics and all that stuff? Like, didn't it hurt black people? Like, that's just what I've heard elders say. I can't speak on it because I wasn't there firsthand,
Anyone who's not a billionaire. But before 1968, did the black press have freedom to say whatever it wanted to say?
Well, LBJ got up in there.
Whatever you want to say. Was lynching and racial terror a common thing?
Hell, can you say what you want to say now? Or do I have to be like, not all is bad? You know what I'm saying? Can you say what you want to say? Can Jada Kiss get on the radio and say we stack chips like Hebrews? You can't do that. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
I mean, this is how we survived. And so we actually had a taste of freedom between 68 all the way up to
Taste of
maybe, I don't know,
comfort.
15. I don't know when you want to mark the end of American democracy, but we had a taste.
1776, the day, 22nd after it was declared American democracy. That's when it was done. Well, we had some level of comfort for the last 70 years. Why would we want to throw that away?
Taste of freedom, and we at least know what freedom could be, what it can do, how it can help your life be better. But the people who marched in Selma didn't know anything about no freedom, and they still fought for it. So then what excuse do we have to not fight for it now? We're building a multicultural coalition.
Reagan was a reality show star, right? He was on a damn thing like shit. They didn't even have social media then, and he got caught on tapes talking about Africans don't have no shoes and stuff like that. But the problem that I have and why I don't really like talking politics with black people is because if I was to say JFK is just as bad, it probably worse. Right? If there's a lesser of two evils, there you go. Why? Because y'all would fight me over JFK, you know what I'm saying? Some would fight you over Reagan, but none of you will fight me over Trump. We agree. But the thing y'all will fight me over, y'all be like, he the worst. He's probably number 15, or you realize it was like 10 presidents that had slaves in like the White House. Like, he's nowhere near the worst. You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference between Hitler and George Washington? Right? One spoke German, one spoke English, That's the difference.
That is allowing us to push back. We have the free independent press. We have Karen Hunter on the microphone. She's keeping it hot, and making sure we know what's up. And we have others as well. So the bottom line is we have every reason, even given the dire circumstances, to stand up, be counted, organize, litigate, march, protest, write a poem, write a song, do a documentary,
go to church
like Karen Hunter does, and she helped me do. We have every reason to believe that things are going to get better if we stick together and don't back down. So
didn't that brother Amos Wilson at the beginning sit there and talk about the Negro in the 80s or in the 80s, mind you, or 90s, sitting there talking about the Negroes with it's got to get better. Lord, so they still saying this 30 something? No, 30, 40 years later, it has to get better. Maybe after 200 years, my brother, if we ain't mulattoes after 50 years, I think we won't be mulattoes because some of us still will reproduce with each other. You know what I'm saying? One thing, black people, we got that ability to reproduce. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be here. But the mentality that we have in the next 200 years, let's hope it doesn't take that long.
And just make sure we do that.
All right.
Let's go to
I'm gonna touch on
go down to Selma tonight.
And finally, the birthright citizenship case has made it to the Supreme Court. Oral argument started yesterday. The president of the United States sat in. I don't know how unusual that is, but I'm thinking it's pretty unusual to have the president sit in.
How about never before?
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, okay, I don't think we've seen this before. Why is it so important to him, and how do you think this is going to play out? I was kind of surprised at the pushback from certain people. I was like, Amy Coney Barrett, what? Gorsuch is saying what now? What is happening? It was very interesting.
It was fascinating. Let me just say this about his presence in the court. Friends, it was designed to intimidate the court. That was his purpose for being there. He wanted to stare him in the eye and say, do you dare? I put half of y'all on. That's not true. I put 3-4 y'all on here.
Well, one could argue Alito and Clarence Thomas.
Wait, hold on. Why didn't Biden go down there and say, "I dare you"? Let's not even have to renew this every 25 years. You know what I'm saying? Or Obama, I voted for you the first time, my brother, my half brother. The other half of you now. That's the problem. Now, and let me shut up.
Are bought.
Right.
Harlan Coe, they are paid subsidiaries. So yes, them too.
Yes. So he could say,
I'm sorry.
They are paid subsidiaries. So yeah, I would argue Alito and Clarence Thomas are bought. Harlan Coe.
Now, okay, because this is another thing that is like for me, right? Because the way I look at history is from a Black perspective. Understand that Clarence Thomas took Thurgood Marshall's spot, and we can see who Clarence Thomas is today, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about the mixed brother Thurgood Marshall right now, but when I be like, I got a problem with Thurgood Marshall, right? It's the same problem you would have with Clarence Thomas, but it's probably worse. But that's a whole nother subject. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a pile of tricksters, but we fall for the tricks every time. Every time. I know this time we damn sure can't focus on what we need this time because the goddamn Mexicans getting kicked out. We got to do something about that. It's how white people is hurting y'all now, y'all. We got to do something. Y'all know if white people hurting, that means we got cancer. Oh yeah, they have nothing. Well, yeah, during the Great Depression, they was jumping out of windows, but we had Black Wall Street. You know that, so that might not be true. Anyway,
they are paid subsidiaries. So yes, them too.
Yes. So he could say, "Look, I had me and my movement put y'all on here. Now I'm gonna stare you right now and dare you to go against me, because I will remember." That's what he's doing. It's straight. Imagine John Gotti walking into a courtroom. Imagine Al Capone. Imagine any low down, horrible, ruthless, abusive tyrant,
aka a white dude going to court,
daring the free, independent judiciary to rule against him. That's what's going on. Make absolutely no mistake about it. This is the same guy who has been trying to bully and intimidate the independent judiciary for years now.
All right.
There was a federal judge whose son was killed, fired by him, and he's signaling the judges are dumb. He accused them of displaying disloyalty to the Constitution. He has said things like, that the judges are.
I thought I had something that he said. It might have been another video. I got all the stuff jumbled up.
Here he is trying to bully them.
It was something about
so just put that down as one more anti-democratic thing that he did among many. So now let's talk birthright citizenship.
All right, yeah, here we go.
Well, first of all, friends, understand that the reason that there is birthright citizenship at all ever is because in 1857, Chief Justice Roger Taney said that Black people have no rights which a white man is bound to respect.
Now hold on, wait a gosh darn minute here, because y'all told me that the 14th Amendment did away with that. 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, that did away with that. That's what makes us citizens. So what the hell does birthright citizenship in the 60s got to do with anything in 1968, as he put it? Because y'all told me the 14th Amendment was what made you a citizen. Damn, I'm confused. What the hell makes you a citizen again? It was 1965 when they Anyway, I don't know. I'm lost, y'all. Maybe I got history confused, or maybe y'all got it confused. One of us got it confused, though.
In a case known as the Dred Scott case. He wrote it. I know some people think, Karen, you and I are just rabble rousing troublemakers talking about stuff that really did happen, but it really did happen.
See, that's what I'm saying, my brother. They are the rebel rousers and troublemakers. You know what I'm saying? And it's only that way because they probably, not to say them personally, but a lot of black people are looking for white validation. And when you talk about black history, you'll never get white validation. So we see that as being an extremist, but it is not. Nowhere near it. It's us sitting here. See, this is my thing. This is why people, I guess, don't like me, or I don't like people. One of the two is because I see that as weak as hell, right? Like when he talking about we can go protest and do all this and America is gonna be great. See, these is red flags to me of clone being a clone. Like it's not just a simple thing, right? It's it is simple. Things like that lets me know your mentality, and I'm like, yo, my clone radar goes off. Like this is some clone stuff, bro. Like there's a reason why you sitting here rebel rousing, just like they did in the 70s, just like they did in the eight. Well, they implemented the war on drugs against us in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? With was it Reagan and all of that stuff, and the Nancy Reagan Just Say No campaign, where they would funded a small war, the Nicaraguan war, funded a small war by taking drugs out that country, putting it into the black community, getting black people like the dude Rick Ross to sell the drugs to black people, right? And then made money on the back end by locking the black people up for selling drugs and privatized prisons. You know, privatized prisons became a thing in 1984. Did you know that? Before that, y'all was still on the chain gang, but it belonged to the state. But then it became a privatized prison thing in 1984. I'm part of Reaganomics, mind you. Yo, shouts out to Melanated Goddess in the building. Yo, it's been a minute. How you been doing, Melanated Goddess?
What?
Roger T. said that blacks have no rights which a white man is bound to respect, and basically said we're not citizens. Now think about this.
Not
by
basically.
1857, you may have had 6 or 7 generations of black people who were born and lived their whole lives on North American U.S. soil.
Some were here before.
What, I'm telling you, before 1857, you had generations of black people born here. So
Yo, and that's what I'm saying. You go from the 60s, right, where you had black people in the streets, like you had the Watts riots. They was pulling white people out of cars, beating them up. Like, yo, you violate a black person, and black people was squadding up black men, women together. Then you go from that to after Martin Luther King and Malcolm X get killed, and then you hit them with the feminist thing in the 70s, right? And a lot of and most black people wasn't getting jobs, and then you had the projects that came about in the 60s, but then they said, though, well, the fathers had to be out the house, right? But then they came with the feminist thing, and then by the 80s, especially with young black people in the quote unquote inner cities, they hit you with the war on drugs, you know what I'm saying, of the 80s. And we still recovering from that, you know what I mean? But yo, I appreciate that, Melanin Goddess.
citizenship is not only tied to birth and where you're born.
Okay, my brother backstage. Yo, what's going on, my brother?
Hey, what's up, forecast? What's going on, brother?
Not much.
Yeah, man, everything cool, man. Just chilling on a Sunday night. We'll sit down, looking at some of these games a little bit, man, and then when I got the call, I said, damn, forecast ain't going on tonight. Let me go on over there and see what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to be light today. I ain't gonna argue with him today, you know. But what
Hey,
you
hey, but you know what though? One thing I just want to say real quick, from like listening to what the brother was just saying, Keith Ellison was saying, is this right here. Now he was talking about whoever that the guy was, I missed the name, or who was saying how black people didn't have any rights that that a white people
You
were
talking
bound
about
to
Dred
respect.
Scott case? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But you know,
Judge Taney.
okay, yeah, but just this the funny thing about it. Abraham Lincoln said the same shit. You know what I'm saying? But they don't talk about that. Yeah, with Abraham Lincoln, like after the Emancipation Proclamation, you know, he had this letter that he had written that he was talking about black people. He was saying that I don't think that black people are equal to white people, that they that we're basically inferior to white people. We're not their equals, that we don't have the same protections and stuff under the law. And he said, and he said that like he basically said the same thing that you know a black person's word would never be taken over a white person's word, like in court. You know, like in the judicial system and stuff like that. He was saying that because remember he well, you know, they had the American colonization thing before Abraham Lincoln. But what I'm saying, Abraham Lincoln wanted to deport black people. He wanted to deport black people from America. He wanted to send black people to Liberia in West Africa, which had been established at that time. And he also thought about proposed like sending black people to South America, like Brazil, places there, in Mexico, and in the Caribbean, and Belize in particular too. You know, in Central America. So I mean, you know, we have like Brother Keith, Sister Karen. You know, they pretty much Democratic, party people. You know what I'm saying? And you know how they'll bring up things like, you know, the Republican this and Republican that. You know, I mean, you know how we think about Republican and Democratic Party. We like Brother Malcolm, one a wolf and one a fox, and they both got you on the menu. So you know, neither one of them any good for me. But I'm just saying, you know how they try to play that political thing, you know, where they play on black people, Democrats, Republicans. But I mean, Abraham Lincoln, you know, you never hear them talk about Abraham Lincoln. I remember when Obama got elected. You know, I was right there. I remember when it happened. I got caught up in the sauce too. You know what I'm saying?
He was like, "My president is black. My Lambo is blue."
Yeah,
He was out there.
Hey, brother, look, I was saying, I finally got a president. You know what I'm saying? I got caught up in the bullshit. Hey, we's free. But what I'm saying, and I was just thinking about it, because see, me already having some black consciousness, you know, and knowing better, really knowing better. And like during that first term, I started coming to my senses like, nah, man, this ain't right. But I'm just saying, I remember how he always talked about Abraham Lincoln, because you know Barack was from Chicago, well, based in Chicago anyway. You know what I'm saying? And talk about, you know, Abraham Lincoln and how great he was and all that, but they never did talk about that hate speech that he said about black people. I mean, you can look it up. It's common knowledge. You know, everybody know about it. You know, he said some terrible things about black people, man. You know what I'm saying? And I was just listening to what the brother was saying, like, you know, and I'm basically saying it ain't never been one of these hunkies ain't never been no good president for black people. I mean, you saying how a dictatorship and all this stuff now, but it's always been bad for us anyway, regardless. To whoever was in power, Ronald Reagan, I lived doing that. You know what I'm saying? I seen all of this shit. I remember the 80s forecast and how racially charged it was and all of the bullshit. I remember all the riots and things that went on, the rebellions like in Miami and other places. I remember Overtown and all of that. But I'm just saying it ain't never been good for us under whatever president you got, you know. And even when we had one what we called our first black president, was they called that. I never did call a hunky no black president.
Bill
Clinton. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I couldn't stand him from the first time I seen him. But I'm just saying, you know, we ain't never had no good president. There, you know, it's like we're gonna make Trump the bad guy. Yeah, he just another cracker doing what crackers do. You know what I'm saying? But all of them did what crackers do. Hey, you know what? Just like he went over starting wars in Iran, guess what? Barack Obama started wars in Libya. You know what I'm saying? And Bush in Iraq. I mean, they all started wars over other people's shit. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, you know, man, different face, but it's the same game, man. You know, as long whoever's in that office, I don't care how many black men or black women or people of color presidents you get, they in the American system, they're gonna represent what the American system stand for. You know what I'm saying? And that's taking other people's shit. You know what I'm saying? No, that's you know, man, we know what America was built on. I don't want to go on too long about that, but I just wanted to throw that in there about Abraham Lincoln real quick.
Yeah, man. I don't know. You tripping, bro. Don't be talking about that good white boy like that, man. And you know, Obama was actually the fourth black president. The first was Abraham Lincoln, the first black president. The second was JFK. The third was Obama, and the fourth was Joe Biden. So, you know, I'm just saying, brother. Don't talk about that good white boy like that. You know what I'm saying? You know, is a story about when he came to Richmond, Virginia, and after it got burned down, and he was walking through the streets, and according to the story, now this is the story, it might be true, it might not be true, it's probably true based off, but a black woman got down on her knees and was like, yo, this is Moses or somebody from the Bible here in the flesh, and they like, she got down and praised them and stuff like that, like, this is this is Moses, or you know what I'm saying, like, not quite Jesus, but Moses or somebody. And this was a black woman in the city I'm in right now, you know. So I just found that kind of interesting. But all right, let me finish
Well,
up with this.
you know that might, hey, you know that might have been false because they said John Brown. Somebody did the same thing to John Brown. We know he didn't exist.
Yeah, John Brown wasn't real. Yeah, it's true. Neither was Abraham Lincoln. For all that, might as well have Abraham Lincoln, the vampire hunter, is more believable. You know what I mean?
Hey, man.
All right, let's go.
Okay. It's who belongs. It's a matter of belonging. It's do you belong? So after the South starts the Civil War, loses it, and the slavocracy is defeated for their act of.
Oh, by the way, did they lose? Can you fly a flag on a state capital after you lose a war? It's just a question
treason and traitorism, and they lose. Then we pass the 13th Amendment, which says no involuntary servitude. Then, and that's like 1866. It's fast.
Except, go ahead, finish. No involvement. Finish that sentence, my brother. All right, he didn't want to finish it.
And
We'll
then we have
skip
the
it.
14th Amendment, which is pretty quick soon after that. And then that one, it says a number of things, due process of law, equal protection, but it also says all people are citizens of the states in which they are born or naturalized and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Yo, hey, my brother, quick question. What percentage of a person is you, according to their law?
I'm just 3/5, man.
All right, so is you a person? No, I don't think so.
No, I'm a subhuman. Hey, if 4K, just for a minute, briefly, let me interrupt before you keep going. All right, now you hear what he's saying about citizenship or whatever. And on the topic of what he's talking about now, look here. Even after the Civil War, the American Civil War was over with. After that war was over with, black people still did not become citizens of the United States until 1867. Now the war was over in 1865. It was 2 years after until they became U.S. citizens, was recognized as U.S. citizens. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, you talking about the Civil Rights Act?
No, I'm talking about it was just, when even after the Civil War, even before the Civil War, no black person in America was a citizen. Even then, I'm talking about the ones even in the North, they still were not citizens. They were not recognized as citizens.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm saying after the war, it was 2 years until black people were recognized as U.S. citizens. It was in 1867.
Yeah, I forget. I think that's when they passed the first civil rights thing in 1866 or something like that. And then like it went into effect in 1867. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
It could be, man, but I know they were only granted citizenship in 1867.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not really that important. My bad. But all right, here we go. Let me
That's what it says.
so we can get to the Haitian Revolution part.
Not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States are like the kids of diplomats or something. Everybody else.
And I think people on reservations, because that came up.
Yeah.
Yesterday as well.
All right.
Designated to exclude an ethnic group from immigrating to the United States.
All right, so we talked about that, so we'll just keep going with the
One thing I want to make clear, that we should probably already know. The thugs who wrote this Constitution never had us in mind whatsoever as far as it applying to us, because it was never meant for us. Charles Pickney, who was a slave owner who helped write the Constitution and signed it, he said at the time that they were writing it, he knew perfectly there was no such thing as a Negro citizen, and he couldn't possibly conceive it ever existing.
Now, if you're looking for a bad guy at the Constitutional Convention, I should introduce you to Charles Coates.
Close your eyes and pick anybody in the room.
The threat slavery might pose to national security, with northern states not wanting a central government calling up their militias to put down slave revolts in the South. Charles Coatsworth Pinckney countered that the real threat to national security came from frontiersmen or New England fishermen. At one point in the convention, Pinckney claimed that banning the slave trade was unnecessary. South Carolina can never receive the plan if it prohibits the slave trade. In every proposed extension of the powers of Congress, the state has expressly and watchfully expected that of meddling with the importation of Negroes. If the states be all left at liberty on this subject, South Carolina may perhaps by degrees do of herself what is wished, as Virginia and Maryland have already done. After Mason's tirade on August 22nd, Pinckney claimed that South Carolina might abolish slavery on its own. If slavery be wrong, it is justified by the example of all the world. In all ages, one half of mankind have been slaves. He then went on to express a kind of conspiracy theory, claiming that Virginia wants to ban slaves in order to dominate the domestic slave trade. South Carolina and Georgia cannot do without slaves. As to Virginia, she will gain by stopping the importations. Her slaves will rise in value, and she has more than she wants. It would be unequal to require South Carolina and Georgia to confederate on such unequal terms. He then argued that continuing the trade would benefit the whole Union and not just the states that continued the practice. He contended that the importation of slaves would be for the interest of the whole Union. The more slaves, the more produced to employ the carrying trade, the more consumption also, and the more of this, the more revenue for the common treasury. James Wilson responded to Pinckney's claim that South Carolina and Georgia would abolish the trade on their own fairly soon. If South Carolina and Georgia were themselves disposed to get rid of the importation of slaves in a short time, as has been suggested, they would never refuse to unite because the importation might be prohibited. As the section now stands, all articles imported are to be taxed. Slaves alone are exempt. This is, in fact, a bounty on that article. Other delegates began voicing their opposition to allowing the slave trade to continue without either taxing the importation of them or taxing the exports of the products.
Hey, peep that. The only thing that was not taxed was slaves being imported. You know what I'm saying? So
produced with their labor. So as you can see, Pinckney sucks, but he gets worse. You remember earlier when I said that in the notes on the Federal Convention that there was no point in which they were talking about how human slaves were? Well, I need to make a correction there. They did talk about it once, and it was by Charles Coatsworth Pinckney. He claimed the value of black labor was only 3/5 that of whites, and therefore they should only be counted as 3/5 when it came to taxation. But when the discussion moved on to political representation, he argued that slaves should be counted in full because they were just as human as whites. At this point, he got called out on his bullshit, and his motion to count all slaves for apportionment was rejected. You can get
now notice that, right? They didn't say like, no, they didn't agree on we'll settle with they're all human, so we'll go with the more taxes. They said we all know that they're not human, so we'll go with the 3/5 thing. So we're only going to count them as 3/5. That's what the good North said, of course, you know.
Full details of that exchange in the previous video. Before the convention was over, Pinckney had one last parting shot. Originally, the slave trade clause would allow the trade to continue until January 1st, 1800. But a couple days later, Pinckney decided to chime in again and motions to amend the clause to prolong the slave trade until January 1st, 1808.
Now, we'll end it right there, but...
All right. So, and I think this the dude who also said...
they're clear that they're...
Like, I wrote the Constitution, and I was clear that it'll never be for Negroes, you know what I mean? So, let's go on to the next part.
People argue that slavery was even harsher there than it was. We've been focusing on the history of her in the world. Now, even though the demographics were much different in places in the Caribbean, Some people argue that slavery was even harsher there than it was in America, not to compare the two. But even though Black people made up about 7/8 of these populations, only as much as 3% of Black people was considered free in these Caribbean islands. And rumors about how Black people were treated on the plantations over there were infamous, right? And a lot of times, a lot of slave owners threatened to send rebellious slaves over there to be broken. And we're going to touch on that a little bit next time when we see people like George Washington do it with his slaves. But even though today they try to make places like Haiti look poverty stricken and poor and, they just can't do anything. But during the 1700s, Haiti was the wealthiest colony and was producing most of the world's sugar. And these sugar plantations was some of the sickest plantations there were.
In the summer of 1789, when Haiti was still the dormant colony of Saint-Domingue, it was France that grabbed the world's attention. Parisian mobs rioted against the French king and against their own desperate poverty. Chanting slogans for liberty, equality, and brotherhood, they sparked the revolution that would fill history books for centuries to come. What was a dangerous idea in France was even more dangerous in its slave-holding colonies off the coast of Florida, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and an island known as the Pearl of the Antilles. Today, the western half is Haiti. Then it was the French colony of Saint-Domingue.
Sailors would come off the ships. The first people they would talk to, the people they would work with as they were unloading the ships, were enslaved people. So there are reports who were describing the events that have been going on in Paris to the enslaved that are working alongside of them.
Few intended colonial slaves should take democratic ideas to heart. Far too much was at stake. Sugar greased the wheels of the 18th century economy, and Saint-Domingue was the sugar capital of the world. Some Blacks managed to escape slavery. Many had been born free, fathered by white planters. Others had gained freedom through their own wits or talents.
In 1789, there were about 40,000 white people and about 30,000 colored people who were, of course, their sons and cousins and so on and so forth, who were landowners themselves, many of them.
Colored people meaning mulattoes.
Slave owners themselves, many of them very effective businessmen.
On the night of August 22nd, 1791, 1,000 enslaved Africans attacked their masters. The rebel numbers grew from 1,000 to 20,000 as newly liberated slaves burned cane fields and refineries. Whites and mixed-race people fled to the capital city for mutual protection. From there, they watched firestorms on all horizons.
And with them trading so much sugar, they would just treat the slaves horribly and forcing them to work to the point where, slaves generally had a 3-year lifespan. And after they died, they just bring in more and work them to death. Now, after the Europeans had what they called the French Revolution, the enslaved population in Haiti heard about it and was even more inspired to fight, especially since they had been fighting for their freedom. Now, even though only a small percentage of Black people was considered free, most of that population was the mulatto population. See, unlike the English, who just called everybody Negroes and just did this one drop rule, the French handled it different. And the children that they had with enslaved women, right, a lot of times they would give them benefits over everybody else, right, creating what I guess some people would call a buffer class. Now, many of the plantation owners and a lot of white people didn't even live on this island. And they had this mixed race population to basically maintain control for them. Some of the slave owner kids who inherited the plantations never even seen the plantations themselves. And it was actually the mulatto population, and many of them owned slaves themselves. And a lot of them made sure that the system kept going like it was already going. Now, even though this mixed race group was treated better than fully black people, right, they still were under white people. They still had to refer to them as sir and ma'am and master and all of that stuff. But they were still treated as second-class citizens. After their French Revolution, they actually passed a law in Paris that basically said mulatto people get treated as equal as everybody else and equal protection under French law. Now, this pissed off a lot of the French slave owners, especially the ones with plantations in places like Haiti, because they felt like no mulattoes should be treated as equal with them. And some of them were mad enough to even talk about seceding from France and starting their own kind of government. Now, even though the mulattoes weren't accepted by the white French slave owners, the mulattoes didn't want to give up their slaves either, which was the fully black people, right? They still wanted to maintain that hierarchy. They just wanted to be on the same level as whites. And after all, they are their parents, their brothers and sisters, their cousins, their family, all of that. And as a group, the mixed race people owned at least 10% of the enslaved people in Haiti. And, you know, it's just like the same thing with the colorist argument, you know, that we even see sometimes today, right? The lighter skin.
All right, now I'm gonna stop it right there. Right now, the good brother John Henry Clark was like, "Yeah, it's a book that needs to be written," but he ain't really want to, because I get why. Y'all be like, "They's black," but see, it's different amongst different groups. You know what I'm saying? Like the French use mulattoes differently. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to how the British did in America. Now, this is a conversation I know that y'all don't want to have with this whole mulatto thing here, though. You know what I mean? And especially with the black people in certain places, right? Speaking of the coon mentality. And yo, you want to say something, my brother, for before I keep going?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that two things. One thing, like after you was talking about, I mean, what you was talking about, how the legislation that they had passed in revolutionary France, which is like giving equality, you know, recognition to the mixed race people, the mulattoes, the people of color, you know what okay, in the French colonies. You know, after that, when Napoleon, who had been one of the revolutionaries, you know, decided, well, you know, he went for power and, you know, declared himself emperor. What he said was that he said, fuck you mulattoes. You know what I'm saying? And he only looked at them as just a notch above the black people. And as a matter of fact, I think he was, you know, he was trying he was trying to curtail their rights. And see, and it was this in Haiti, in the colony of Saint Domingue, where the mulatto leadership had actually in the beginning they wanted to fight on the side of the French. You know what I'm saying? Against the rebels, you know, against the rebelling Africans. They was gonna fight on the side, but when Napoleon told them that, hey, you know, we putting all y'all back in slavery, you know what I'm saying? Then, you know, that's when they joined the revolution. But the other thing that I wanted to say is, you was talking about, you know, I remember Dr. Clark had talked about that too. You said it just like he said it, you know, about the mulatto, you know, because he always talked about it in many of his lectures about the mulatto not knowing loyalty toward his mother's family, his mother's side or his father's side. But like I said, I grew up, you know, we had personal experience with that, you know, here in Louisiana. Like I say, I have one of my cousins, my female cousins, she married to a guy from out of Natchitoches, Louisiana. Now, Natchitoches was the first French settlement in Louisiana, you know, and became a city. It's a city today, Natchitoches, just where Northwestern State University is located at. Well, in Natchitoches, they had that those people of color, you know, those mixed race people, the descendants of French and African people. They're known in Natchitoches today as the Cane River Creoles. That's what they know as the Cane River Creoles, light-skinned people, some of them damn near white, you can't even tell. You know, and it was all, and then they had their own land. A lot of them owned enslaved black people. You know, it was the same thing. It was like that class distinction thing. You know, so we had that right here, and I knew. Like, I mean, I have family members who had married into some of their families. I've been to Natchitoches many times. You know, and you can see it. You know, when you go among them, you can see it. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in right there. Yeah, so it's like you said, it's a topic that a lot of us don't want to talk about. A lot of people don't want to talk about. But I've seen it up close and personal. That's all I want to say, Forecast.
Yeah, and you know why? It's gonna upset their white girlfriend. That's why they're gonna be mad, and they sons. You know what I mean? But you see the NBA today. They gonna find out. But the thing about it, and I'm not even gonna go there yet because it's gonna piss them off too much, right? About towards the end of the Haitian Revolution, because like you said, right, during this time that we're on now, the mulattoes, as was we about to see, we see whose side they choose. You know what I'm saying? Now, I don't want to go here yet, you know what I'm saying? Because look, I'm asking y'all, what did the Haitians wouldn't have a revolution, or I don't know. I don't know about that. And I'm not gonna go there yet. Like, we're gonna talk about this first part, Now, even today, right? Because of course they had the whole thing, and damn, I had something here, but I don't know what it was.
Hey, Forecast. One thing
Uh-huh.
real quick.
Uh-huh.
One thing real quick. Yeah, they won the war, but they lost the peace.
I don't know if they won.
No, you hear what I said? They won the war. They won the war on the battlefield. But I'm saying, but they lost the peace.
Yeah, but
You know what
I
I'm
no,
saying?
I feel you. They definitely lost the peace. I agree with you, but I don't know if you could say you won if you had to pay them to leave you alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a whole nother.
Okay,
We not. I ain't gonna go there yet.
okay, okay.
Huh? That's I know because it's disrespectful to people who are Haitian, but sometimes we need that little jolt of reality to make us wake up and win. Actually, you know what I'm saying? But that's a whole nother. I'm not gonna go there until we get to that part at the
I
end.
just finished watching Freda by Jessica Gratitude, which is a Haitian film produced in Haiti by a Haitian woman, by Haitian actors in Creole. It is such an amazing movie, and I implore you to go watch it if you get the chance. But what I want to talk about today is that the beautiful work that Jessica Gratitude did. She hired
What if Haiti wasn't just divided by poverty but by a racial caste system inherited from colonial rule? Haiti is celebrated as the nation that defeated slavery and empire. But the colonial hierarchy did not disappear with independence. Instead, it transformed into a system of colorism and class rule. At its core, this is the story of the mulatto elite versus the black majority, a system designed not for liberation, but for control. To understand this, we have to look back to French colonial Saint-Domingue. Society was divided into three tiers: white colonists at the top, free people of color often of mixed ancestry in the middle, and enslaved Africans at the bottom. Free people of color were often educated, owned property, and aligned themselves with French culture and interests. In this system, proximity to whiteness meant privileged access to schools, land, and political voice. This hierarchy wasn't accidental. It was engineered to divide and rule. Colorism was not a cultural flaw, it was a colonial technology. After Haiti declared independence in 1804, the revolution changed the rulers but not the rules. Political power concentrated in the hands of lighter-skinned elites. French remained the language of the state. European customs defined legitimacy. Urban life
Don't sound
became the
like a
center
win.
of power. Meanwhile, the rural, black, Creole-speaking, Vodou-practicing majority was excluded. The state did not serve the masses, it served a class. Access to education, military leadership, commerce, and governance was reserved for a few. The black majority remained locked out of the system they had fought to create. This imbalance set the stage for a turning point. François Duvalier rose to power by weaponizing long-standing resentment against mulatto dominance. He presented himself as the voice of the black majority, challenging elite control and invoking black identity.
Now, my brother, because how did John Jacques Dessalines die?
Jean-Jacques Dessalines was killed by the mulattoes. You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
He was killed by the mulatto who was what his name was, one of his commanders, but his name was his name escaping me right now.
Yeah, I forget it too. I know you're talking about though. Like
Yeah,
John something.
No, I'm saying it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't Andre Rigaud. It was. It's gonna come back to me. But he was the one. He's the one who hatched the plot, to kill Dessalines. You know what I'm saying? That's a complicated thing. I'm still trying to think of his name, but it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. But that plot was hatched by the mulattoes.
Now,
Yeah,
and then
definitely.
on top of that, now after they kicked the French out and they had the island, the mulattoes, right? And this is what kind of weakened it for when the French came back and they didn't have enough because they were so busy fighting the mulattoes after that, which weakened the whole thing, which then in turn they was like, all right, we'll sign this thing. But I mean, we gotta talk about the downfall of like why Haiti, I'd say lost, you know what I'm saying? I know y'all don't want to agree with that, but
Hey, Forecast. I'm sorry. I just remembered his name. His name was Alexandre Pétion.
Pétion, yeah, that's
Yeah,
who it was.
Pétion.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I would have said Patreon, because I got colonized by the British, but yeah.
Yeah. And the thing about another, if I can, real quick, a thing about it. Okay, now we hear about, we always hear about Haiti, the relationship between Haiti and say Venezuela. Okay, and you hear about how the Haitians, supplied, gave refuge to the Venezuela leaders like Simon Bolivar and all that. Actually, okay, yes and no. Actually, it was the mulatto Pétion, who had the relationship with Bolivar. Now, see, Pétion was a president of Haiti. He was president of part of Haiti because the country had split in two. You had in the north, the majority of the country was under Christophe. In the southern part, what it was the mulatto power base was under Pétion. And
And most of
Pétion
the
was the one
mulattoes
who
was in the South, yeah.
yeah. And Pétion was the one who was negotiating with Bolivar and gave the aid to Bolivar. You know what I'm saying? That. Yeah, okay, go ahead. I just want to throw that in real quick. Go ahead, bro.
Hey, look, John Henry Clark was like, "This is a book that got to be written because black people were like, you gotta drop a black blood in you. No, maybe if you gotta drop a white blood in you, you're white. Y'all ever think about that? I don't think y'all did.
Whole Caribbean country
We make the rules now, y'all. We ain't got to go by their rules.
has inherited, unfortunately, of a system called colorism. Colorism is it's so despicably ridiculous that just to characterize it's just because it's so shallow. It's just because in the US they had something called the brown paper bag test. So if you are some women, back in the days, I guess, I don't know if it's still done, but they take the typical brown paper in the US, and they see if you are lighter, then they would marry you. If you are darker, then they would.
All right. I'm not gonna go there, but I ain't even
And that
pull up
whole
to East
thing
Haiti.
was utter bullshit. That was a lie.
What? What you mean? What was a lie?
The paper bag thing. If you was lighter than a paper bag, that was bullshit. You would be a woman of that color would be a concubine. You know what I'm saying? Would be his side chick. You know what I'm saying? But they wouldn't marry you. You know what I'm saying? Unless you was light bright and damn near white. You know what I'm saying? No, we going down to the like to the quadroon and octoroon, balls of New Orleans and stuff. That paper bag thing was live. If you were the color of a paper bag, you still was recognized as not being white or nowhere close to white. You know what I'm saying? You got the same treatment.
Yeah, no, yo, cause he has it mixed up. Like now, I did hear, but the paper bag things to kind of came into the 1900s with a lot of those mulatto societies that was being created, especially on like certain colleges and stuff like that, and
Yeah. But
certain.
see, yeah, but see, for kids, that whole that's like it was a South Louisiana thing, basically. Like I say, where they had these like you ever heard of like they had these balls now where they have where they bring young ladies out to introduce them to society and stuff. Well, it was like that. They had quadroon balls and
Yeah.
octoroon balls. It was a thing where these wealthy white men could have clandestine relationships with these attractive mixed race women. That's what it was. These balls thing. They got introduced. It was really almost kind of way. It was like a prostitution thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
these men were married, they had wives, but like they wanted to have side women. They had relationships, and they like paid for education, for housing. They did stuff for them. But I'm saying it was a thing for these wealthy white men to get with these desirable looking, mixed race women. That's what it was. That's what that was for. That whole thing was
Yeah.
about those quadroon, octoroon balls.
Well, yeah, and see that's the thing. Like you on the right timeline. He was just all over the place. See, what you talking about predates that. This goes back to especially like Louisiana when a lot of the French start coming to Louisiana. And I ain't just gonna blame it on the French because I don't just separate them. But yeah, they start doing that weird mulatto thing down there with the mulatto balls and then the mulatto people was like shitting on the black people down there and all that stuff. That was a whole nother thing. Um, but yeah, like, and his problem is he's like all over the place. He talking about something that happened much later than what he's trying to say. Um, let's see.
Welcome back. Are mixed race people one of the solutions to racism? Let's explore that using the example of Haiti during slavery. As it was during the old regime in France, during slavery in Haiti, there were three classes of people: European colonists / enslavers. There were 32,000 people by the time. I'm talking about 24,000 affranchis, which are mixed race people of African and European descent. And then we had the African enslaved Africans or descendants of enslaved Africans. And near the time of the revolution, again, there was about 500,000 of these people. The white European colonists were the equivalent of the French aristocracy, and they were divided into the Grand Blanc and the Petit Blanc. The Grand Blancs were plantation owners, and some of them were absentees who avoided diseases by remaining in France. The Petit Blanc held positions such as artisans, merchants, and small professionals. Both of those Grand and Petit Blanc discriminated against the classes of people beneath them. The affranchis were the equivalent of the bourgeoisie in France, and the affranchis owned a quarter of the plantation property and a third of the enslaved blacks. You heard me, they were enslaving the black people as well. And they aspired to be on the same social and economic level of the white European colonists who discriminated against them and did not allow them to hold some offices. They feared and felt contempt towards the enslaved blacks who were, again, the majority on the plantation. The equivalent of the French serf class was the enslaved black people, just treated way worse. They worked mainly in the fields, and few of them worked in boiler houses in the sugar mills, and a few of them were slave drivers. Slavery.
All right, I'm gonna stop it. But and the thing that, like I said, man, also this is the French and the British. They all did things. Now, don't get it twisted though. The British would rape black women, produce mulatto offspring, then enslave their own children, and sometimes rape their own children, right? And yeah, they did all of that stuff, and or kill the baby if nothing else. You know what I mean? So like I'm not gonna say it was like but yeah, it was.
Hey, hold on just a minute. I got to answer the phone real quick.
All right, my brother. All right, so all right, let me go on. Then we're gonna finish up with we're not gonna go too far on the Haitian Revolution. We're gonna wrap it up soon. But as my sister Raw would say, two spirits, one body.
It's okay. No! It's the hat. It's the hat. It's the hat. Why don't you think I'm full black? Because my hair? Because my skin? What? What's wrong with my skin? Tell me. You're lighter. Oh, yeah.
See, this is what it's all about. You're lighter. You're lighter than them other Negroes. You know what I'm saying? You're more palatable. You're still a Negro. Don't get it twisted now. But
now I know for sure Deshay's mother is like Filipino and his dad is black. I don't know what type of black his dad is, but this is why there's so much discourse when people be like, oh, I'm bi-ethnic, I'm biracial, but I'm just black. No, you not, because the average, let's just say the average, because there's some raccoons out there. The average fully black American would never be okay with a trailer park, missing tooth, methany head ass, pale face, sun dodging, crater skin, Caucasian clear lady saying the N-word and laughing about it and continuing to engage with her as if it never happened, just glazing and glossing right over it. That's just not a thing in monoracial black communities, black American communities. Some people would be like, okay, but he had absolutely no type of reaction. Even when we see DDG, because he be doing a coon dance sometimes too, when people said the N-word, he did check I think a Latino man over something. It's because they don't have the same relation to the word. She basically didn't even say anything. It's because they don't have the same relation to the word. He was raised with a Filipino lady. His mother is a Filipino woman. That's who raised him culturally. So the values, how you feel about yourself, the ethnic pride, it differs based on who raised you and also genetics, DNA, ethnicity, culture, all of those things, but primarily who raised you. You know what I mean? That's why they say like a lot of biracials with a black mom is completely different from the biracials with the
that is not true, right? You see Meghan Markle, she thinks she found out the hard way. But no, they be just as big as coons, just like the black dudes be. So that's a damn lie. I don't even try to sneak that in there.
with the white teeth, with the white mom. Y'all picked up what I'm putting down. Do y'all think, like, what do y'all think about that? Because I personally feel like everybody loves to use Malcolm X. Well, Malcolm X was biracial and but Malcolm X chose a side. Malcolm X would never stand up there with Methany and allow her to say, you're not full nigger, and just laugh and glaze over it.
Now you see why this is such a difficult conversation for like someone like John Henry Clark. You know what I'm saying? Because look, and I even tried to be cool with a mulatto person. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that I noticed is like, yo, like they would be like, yeah, my mom or the non-black parent would be like, don't bring no black dude home and say black people this and do sneak little things. But the mulatto person would be like, no, I'm proud, I'm black and I'm proud. But then they will also have these things in there like, well, yeah, black women do such and such, right? Especially dark-skinned women. And just little things that always set off my coon radar, you know what I'm saying? But it's not a coon thing, it's because of their other half, you know? And even though I didn't even have a problem with this person, I would still tell them, like, look, you have to have two black parents, you know? And they would be like, well, I don't care what you say, I'm black. You know what I'm saying? But you're not, though. You know what I mean? But, and then you ask why, they'd be like, well, a white person will tell me, well, I'm a black person telling you you're not. So you're telling me you respect what they got to say, but not me? I'm sure you do. You know what I'm saying? And even like the brother who used to come on here, who was a mulatto, you know what I'm saying? He got mad at me saying mulatto, even though that's the law technical term, right? But when we say stop saying the N word, because we don't even say it, right? He was like, well, I grew up saying it. Well, I grew up saying mulatto. But he telling me I need to stop saying mulatto, but you can keep saying the N word? like, see, it's like little stuff like that that give it away from me. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I don't know if you want to say something about that, my brother.
Yeah, that's. I was remembering that name was it? The
You was
brother
going
was
in and out. Hey, you going in and out, my brother. I can't really hear you.
Okay, what I say, was it the brother who you talking about, the mulatto brother used to come on the show?
Yeah. Dude used to come on here. Yeah,
I'm trying to remember what his name was. Was it Mike or something like that?
I forgot.
I
I
can't.
ain't gonna lie.
I
I'll
can't
remember if
remember,
I
but
saw
yeah,
it.
yeah, he used to have me laughing and shit, man. I remember with that show where he got mad and started cussing and shit. I remember that show he got mad. No, but what I wanted to say to her, man, I wanted to, she's talking about what Malcolm X. Malcolm X was not a mulatto. Malcolm X's
His
daddy was
mother
black.
was. Yeah.
That was his mother was a mulatto, but his daddy was black. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I don't know what you want to call that. Because I look here, my brother Andre, my younger brother Andre under me, he was as lighter than Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? And my mom was black and his dad was black. His dad was a little light skinned, but he wasn't. I mean, he was like his dad was like the color like Malcolm X complexion. You know what I'm saying? But my brother was lighter because how the white folks was, what they did to history. We know that. We ain't got to talk about that when it come down through the genetics, but everything. But I don't consider Malcolm X a mulatto, man. They say, yeah, his mother was mixed race. His mother was a mulatto. His father was black as Ace of Spades. You know what I'm saying? But no, so I mean, I don't know if I call it that. You know what I'm saying? If people over there want to, I mean, they'll make a statement say that all of us got some old hunky's blood in us somewhere. So
I
they
bet
make
they
us
would.
mulattoes.
I bet they would.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So we all mulattoes? Hell no. No, but I just want to throw that in, man. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. And Malcolm X's mom hated them because she was a product of rape, you know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is like, and even Malcolm X will tell you, the way I was brought up before I got any kind of knowledge, I was a clone, you know what I'm saying? But even then, right? I'm not trying to say it's like some rules to it or whatnot, but at some point it started being a decision, you know what I'm saying? To, hey, look, I want a damn white girl, you know what I'm saying? We know how these brothers
Hey,
is. I don't want no black dog. At some point it's a damn decision to do this, you know what I'm saying? Now
hey,
you look at
before
the NBA. Mm-hmm.
before Cass, but I mean, just real quick, pushback real quick. Malcolm wasn't raised as a clone. Malcolm became a clone later on when he became a young adult man. Going off. But see, remember Malcolm's parents, his father and his mother were members of the Garvey movement. He grew up in the Garvey movement. His father was a leader of a chapter of the Garvey movement in Omaha, Nebraska, and his mother was like a tireless worker, in the UNIA. So he didn't grow up that way. He became there. Remember, after his father died, and his mother was committed to to a home. You know what I'm saying? And after that, he became an orphan, and all that growing up and stuff. That's where his clone stuff came from. But originally, he wasn't like that. His parents were Garveyites.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and yeah, I definitely. That's a good point. I want to be clear about that. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful because I was gonna say, like for me is like you got 3 out of 4 grandparents. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not trying to make no new rules or none of that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying at some point it became a choice because like with Malcolm X, his mother was like, no, I hate them. You know what I'm saying? His father, both were like on it, you know what I'm saying? Like probably more militant than he was, you know what I mean? And they both were, killed or whatever. His daddy was killed by the Klan because of that, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, he eventually became, who he was, we gonna skip over that other part. But that part of Malcolm X, it comes from this mentality, right? This colonialism mentality, right? And speaking of that, and the Caribbeans and stuff, because this is another part that people don't really talk about now. This sister, who doesn't want to be called a sister, said that she's suing because a brother called her black or treated her like a black woman, and she says she's Dominican. She ain't black. She no black, And so it said, according to her, a supervisor invited her and the black employees to a church for a Black History Month program, and says she doesn't identify as black but Dominican. Um, and so she's actually suing, probably getting this brother in trouble or whatnot. But that takes a whole nother thing, because we see the colorism and stuff like that in these communities. And unfortunately, a lot of black people don't turn out like Malcolm X or his mother. You know what I'm saying? Especially the mixed race people. But even the ones who are black, all, you know.
Black and shouldn't be celebrated during Black History Month. Caribbeans are not black and shouldn't be celebrated during Black History Month. Now that I got your attention, I'm going to explain why this is incorrect. So to sum it up, I am in this group chat with some high school friends, you could say, and long story short, I guess they weren't happy about the Black History Month assembly, and they voiced their opinion. I guess they didn't like the fact that this dance group called Creative Movement went up on stage and they were shaking their behinds or whatever to Afro beats and dance hall. And she said that actually has nothing to do with Black History Month, which is a celebration of Black culture, and Black as in. Since I am from a Caribbean descent, I said that she sounded ignorant, and I proceeded to tell her that African and West Indian culture is very important to Black history. Yes, Caribbean and Black culture are two different things, but at the end of the day, we're still the same thing, and we're Black. Both went through oppression. Both went through discrimination. Both went through slavery. Like, let's talk about it. Then she proceeds to say, Tiana, you're quite literally Caribbean American, not African American. Last time I checked, when I go to apply for a job or fill out any papers, I check off Black African American. Then this person also continues to say that Caribbean American History Month is in June and that we have a whole month to ourselves and to stop colonizing their month.
How can I publish my book? At Dorrance Publishing.
Black History Month is not only to celebrate African Americans, but it's to celebrate all Black people and their achievements that helped contribute to Black history. Now, I'm not the smartest person, but I know enough about my history to educate others. And it says here that Black Jamaicans have made a significant contribution to Black history.
If you're Black, but you won't say you're Black.
Prides herself in her kid's skin color, about how light they is.
Well, I got the answer for you. So for those who are unaware, the Dominican Republic is a Caribbean country, and they share an island with Haiti. And over the years, there has been a discussion about why a lot of Dominicans don't claim their blackness.
No, and by the way, the only reason why this one island is split, who knows, because of crackers.
Why they say things like, I know Black, I'm Dominican. Well, let's take it back to history to find out why this is the case. So the first group of Black people who came to DR were indentured workers, mainly from Spain and Portugal. And these indentured workers' bloodline and heritage stems from Central and West Africa. And in the 19th and 20th century, a lot of Black immigrants actually ended up settling in DR. A lot of them being from the British Indies and some even being from the United States when slavery was abolished. I'm skipping a lot of history and timelines due to the length of this video, because this could easily be an hour-long video talking about the history of DR. But to answer the question, yes, Dominicans are definitely Black, but it also depends on who you're asking. One of the main reasons why...
Well, Dominicans is a place. It's not there's some who's mulatto. There are some who Black. There are some, but the Black ones are Black.
This is an issue is because there's a lot of immigration.
Just like East India is a place.
Being that Haiti is the neighboring country to DR. Conflict arose and still happens today because there are a lot of Haitians who flee the country for a state of living, there being a potential corrupt government, etc., etc.
Caucasian is white, and everything else, you're Latino. So you're like, no, I'm not Black, I'm Latino. But it's stupid to have to explain my color because you can see it. I don't have to say I am Black, you see it. So that's where the confusion comes in.
And you know what? It's a beautiful color.
If you're Black, you won't.
All right, so what do you think about that? I know Black, my brother.
Well, for somebody like me and like you, we already know the history. We've studied these histories, these different places, in the African diaspora, in the Black world. And we know that was a hierarchical thing, with the Spaniards, when they colonized that island of Hispaniola, they had, it was Spaniards at the top, You know what I'm saying? It was the mestizos, the Spaniard, the people who mixed with Spaniards and the indigenous people, and then it was the mulattoes, and then it was the Africans at the bottom. So they had a racial hierarchy. You know what I'm saying? And then and then when they became independent, when the Spaniards got ran out, they had the mixed race, the mulatto class, who wanted to take the place of the Spaniards, and plus they had a history. One thing it was the history with Haiti. Now there was a point of time where the Haitians had invaded and took over the Dominican Republic. Under one of the mulatto leaders, what's his name? Jean-Pierre Boyer. So Dominican Republic had gained their independence, but Boyer took over the country. So, here we go under Haitian rule, even though he was a mulatto. And then you had later another Haitian man who became who kind of overthrows some people. He was a military guy named Ulysses Hero, and he was a straight up black man, a Haitian. And he ruled the country as a dictator for about 15, 18 years, whatever. And he was real hated by those people. And so it was after him especially where, that real anti-black, anti-Haitian thing started kicking in. Mostly anti-Haitian. But, they had always been from the colonial thing, the I know black thing, you know what I'm saying? The most Spanish blood, the most, European blood that you had, the better off you were, the whole, the class stratification thing. You see it all over the Caribbean. Well, like you say, all you had to do is look at these people. I mean, I equate it with some shit I be seeing here. I got a friend of mine, man, a good friend of mine. Matter of fact, is Dr. Collins' son, his oldest son, David. Okay, now his son had some a partner of his name. We call him Junior. So Junior came over to me. He was out 18, 19. Think you're a real smart dude. You know how they is. They think when they done learned to build a little something on social media. So they brought him over to my house. We sitting down talking. And so we were just talking about identity. I don't know how we got on the subject, but he said, I got something for you. Let me tell you this. Check this out. He looked at me with a straight face and said, we the Indians. I said, what? He said, we the Indians. I said, what Indians talking about? He said, we the American Indians, the Native Americans. I looked at him, I said, boy, go sit your ass down. You know what I'm saying? You Negro been listening to that Dane Calloway and all this other old foolishness. So here you go, right here, a Negro, black as he want to be, right here, standing in front of me, telling me that he was a Native American. You know what I'm saying? So I'm equating now. Look what she's saying. I know black. He basically saying, I know black. You know what I'm saying? It ain't something just from there. This one is here too. You got these Negroes somebody being Moors and Hebrews and all kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Other than what? I ain't black. I ain't African. You know what I'm saying? Because see, that's something that's that goes all over the black world, man. Because of that, I don't know, because of that, I guess some kind of some people look at it as a stigma of we was once enslaved people and we was brutalized and dehumanized and went through slavery and all this kind of stuff. I don't want to be associated with that. I wasn't no slave, none of this stuff here. You even had these Negroes, we was indigenous and all this dumb, stupid shit. So I'm saying, I understand where that come from. Yeah, we know it's foolishness when we hear a sister say some shit like that. I ain't black. Looking at her, she black as ace of spades. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that your people came from Africa. But, we know where it come from, man. It's that, that deep down internal that conflict that we have within ourselves as black people and as African people all over the world. We know that's where it come from. So anytime we see it, at one time I used to see it and I man, what's wrong with these people? But then again, after, the more and more I learned and started studying more about, the root of these causes and things like that, I know where it come from. But we know it's just a bunch of foolishness, man. And it's just internalized self-hate. That's all.
Now, let me ask you a question though, right? Because I agree with what you're saying, right? But this made me think of a question, right? Because I understand what some people say. Now, especially like the let's just say while we're talking about the Dominicans, the one that say I know black, but then also will and always talk negative about black people, but then turn around for scholarship purposes, like the sister was saying, well, if it's something for African Americans, I'm gonna go for it, or I check for African Americans. But I ain't necessarily talking about for her particularly, but for the ones who say I know black, but then turn around and get resources, or even like the lieutenant governor who was in Virginia. She lost now, but she's a Jamaican, but she's a clone, right? She's one of the MAGA supporters, Republican type, running for office as a Republican, right? And she also does these things where she'll be like, "Oh, I'm a black woman," but then say a bunch of disrespectful things. And she happens to be like Jamaican though, but she will say or use even Martin Luther King in vain, the same way that like Donald Trump would use Martin Luther King or something. She would use it the same way, you know. And like I said, I get it. And even the part about when we're talking about Black history and making it about a certain thing, even if we talk about the Black people in particular, because we need to talk about all the Black history all the time. But like, what do you think about that?
Okay, I think that for every one of those type of brothers and sisters who like will use something for their advantage. I mean, look, hell, look, we had the old white bitch. What's her name? Rachel Dolezal who did this shit. When it sprayed some sand lotion, is she black? You know what I'm saying? I think that some people, are opportunists. You know what I'm saying? Some people exploit things, and when we talk about the whole issue of colorism or nationality identity and stuff like that, I mean, a lot of people do that. A lot of them do that. Throughout history, a lot of people have did that. You had people who was like you said, who may be from the Caribbean or from the continent or whatever, who maybe did something like that. But you probably had some of us who did the same thing in other places. You know what I'm saying? The brother who was who was enslaved, and I don't know whether it was in Virginia or somewhere, Abdurrahman. He said, because the United States government had a treaty with Morocco, he said that he was a Moor, he was Moroccan. You know what I'm saying? They let him go. You know what I'm saying? Well, he wouldn't been born from Morocco. He was from Senegal. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, and you can understand this situation. I'm trying to get out from under this. But you always gonna have opportunists who exploit stuff like that, man.
Now,
We
well,
know
I
that.
agree with. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I agree with what you're saying, right? But my only thing is though, and because I'm not even hard on the clone, and because they got on me when I said it, I'm not hard on the clones because I understand why and where it comes from, you know. But I do kind of have a problem when the energy is only directed in one direction. You know what I'm saying? Like the brothers who would say I'm not a, y'all would have smoke for that. You know what I'm saying? But not saying you in particular. I'm just saying like certain people, right? Because if I was to call it out, because I see that as a flaw. Now you would call everybody out. Cassidra calls everybody out. Matron will call everybody out. Raw will call everybody out. You know what I'm saying? But some brothers make excuses like, and they only do it to like black people that's in America. Because I agree, you can't call yourself American. I tell you that all the time. And I say, I dare you. Because I just finished talking about the citizen thing, and nobody challenged me yet. I hope you do, because I want to be proven wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I just don't think I am. But
Got you, okay, check it out. I got you
mhm.
100%. And I'll give you a name of a person that do it all the motherfucking time. Tariq Nasheed. He do it all the time. I mean, disparage and say all the crazy shit that you hear some brothers from the Caribbean or from Africa say, he do that shit all the time against them. And a whole bunch of them on social media. You can find them if you look for. You know what I'm saying? It's
No,
plenty of
but no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the opposite though. Like, and I'm not even talking about because you would see it, but I'm talking about
yeah.
even brothers in our circle that will call out the black people like Tariq Nasheed, but won't do the same thing for the I know black other people. They'll
I
make
got you.
excuses for it. I'm calling out everybody. No, it's clone
Yeah, you're right.
behavior.
100%. 100%. And that's like what I said before at the beginning. I said, you and me, we know this. We know where they come from. You know what I'm saying? So with us sitting back, it's just like, we sitting back like we know where this shit come from. We could hear a conversation. We could be sitting down beginning a conversation with some other brothers and sisters. And like we might hear a brother or sister say something in the beginning of the conversation. And right then it'll click off and I'll probably turn around and look at you and you'll look at me and say, we already know where this is going. You know what I'm saying? Because we know. You know what I'm saying? But like somebody else, they'll look at it like, oh man, no man, we got to get them back. We got to do this here. I understand what you're saying, you know, because we don't want to, like, people don't want to feel like their group being attacked. And vice versa on both sides. I understand 100% what you're saying.
Exactly, yeah.
100% what you're saying. But
Now,
the thing about what I'm saying though is like, see, some people when you reach that certain level of of knowledge like we have, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like it's just like your children, man. You know how your children know and how they interact with each other. You know some of the shicey stuff they'll try to do against each other, stuff like that. We already see it, man. Our mind developed high enough to see that shit. Well, we don't have to get involved with the mudslinging type thing. Of course, man, that's some cool behavior. It's cool behavior from a whole bunch of our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean and from Africa. Matter of fact, at one time when it was Coon Central here, now it's Coon Central in those places. You know what I'm saying? Exactly, 100%. 100%. It's Coon Central. But all I'm just saying, though, is that, you know what I'm saying, we ain't in a battle of who got the most coons. You know what I'm saying? We in a battle of getting rid of the coon shit, the coon mentality. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're in the battle of, getting rid of coon mentality. The way we do that is what we doing now. We had these discussions and we educate our people. We got to educate them too. Other brothers and sisters with consciousness from where they got to educate them. We got to do it to our people. And see, that's how we deal with these things, man. But like I said, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying we grown men and grown women, we know where this come from. That's all I'm saying. We know where it come from.
No, that's all facts, right? And all I'm saying is that, right, because I get it, right? But like, and I ain't because like some brothers that we talked about before a long time ago, right? We'll be like, well, they focus on like if they show this one thing here, you know what I'm saying? But they never talk about the other side of it, which I don't think you should talk about any of it, because I've been saying the whole time, if you notice, it's only been like a handful of times, and that's just like letting y'all get it off y'all chest, talking about this FBA versus whatever thing, because I don't even like, even though black people have had this debate for a long time, I don't think this version of it even comes from black people. And I get irritated that black people, especially even ones who's supposed to be so, for lack of better words, woke, get caught up in this whole thing. But like, you don't realize, like, when you're doing that, you still, first of all, you're only focusing on anti-black material, you know what I'm saying, which is a sign of being a clone yourself, you know what I'm saying? But they don't want to recognize that when you only focus on one side of it, but then even when I point out certain things, it doesn't, it only goes back to one particular thing, you know what I'm saying? And the problem is, in black countries and this country and all of these places, like, we look for white acceptance, you know what I'm saying? And it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? But no, I agree with you, my brother. I do agree with you, what you're saying now.
Yeah, okay. Let me say this. I get you. I know. Hey, I got you. Trust me, I got you. What I'm saying, okay, like you said, a lot of people, some brothers and sisters, on both sides, you know what I'm saying? A lot of them on that side, on the other side. What they do, they mask their anger or whatever, frustration, their anger, their hatred or whatever against a particular group. You know what I'm saying? And some people can come out with a veneer like, I'm pro-black, I'm pan-Africanist or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But they still got that underlying thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's whatever kind of jealousies or whatever. Which I hear it and I see it all the time. I try to navigate around it sometimes because getting in arguments ain't my thing. Like us like going back and forth with all that bullshit. I'm a grown man. I'm nearly 60 years old. I don't get involved in that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I like to talk about how we gonna have a constructive conversation of what we gonna do. That's why I like talking to you, brother. Brothers like you. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
me
You
too,
know,
my
because
brother.
we know how to discuss things, whatever. And I get it. It's a lot. You know, every time you hear around, you know, a brother or sister up there always talk about the African American, Black people in America. You know what I'm saying? So, and like I said, first you use them at touch. But I like sometimes it does seem like a one-sided thing. And I sit back myself and I say, but damn, brother, you know, why is it always like this? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like how we gonna solve things?
Hey,
I hear some brothers, well,
you going in and out real quick. Your thing is kind of
okay, I'd move the phone. Yeah, I'd move the phone. But yeah, I'm just saying, you know, because some brothers like, well, we got to talk about it. We got to discuss it. Well, okay, yeah, I'll get that. But you know, when we discuss things, we don't discuss things from an animosity point of view. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes people can't help it. With something that's in you, it's gonna come out of you. You know what I'm saying? If you really feel a certain way, it's gonna come out of you. You know, you're gonna say stuff. You know, you can sugarcoat for a long time and be like this here, but that shit gonna come out of you sooner or later. You know what I'm saying? Somebody gonna say a trigger word. You know what I'm saying? Oh. You're like, you know, sit like that. Well, I'm saying, you know, everybody, like you say, everybody who claim to be pro-black and claim to be Pan-Africanist and whatever, you know, ain't really everybody not really that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's hard for you to like to rate somebody's sincerity or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that because you know, and then you don't know what has happened to people. Like they might have had problems with this group or whatever, stuff like that. We look at all of that, but I'm just
But that's
saying,
still you still a clone. I don't give no pat. Like, cause
yeah,
like I see brothers on here that can't.
you 100%. Hey, you 100% right. Remember, that's what I said. Everybody who claim to be that ain't that, and they really masking other shit. That's 100%. They really masking other shit. You know what I'm saying? And then as soon as like we had these conversations, when a certain word come out, then it'll come out of them. It'll come out of them. But what I'm saying is, yeah, we know that. We know that. I mean, look here, man. That ain't lost on me. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna be real with
You
you.
know,
It's people that's still in the circle. Like all I'm gonna say, like one red flag is if you look at somebody and all of their content is nothing but anti-black. Even if you think they're calling out somebody, if it's nothing but anti-black stuff on your stuff, that's a red flag that you might be a clone, my brother. But that's a whole nother
absolutely, 100%. Hey, absolutely, 100%. I mean, I see it all the time, man. Like I
Just
said, I
because
see
you
it
talk
all the
about
time.
FBA don't mean you ain't no clone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And I have problems with that all the time. And I sit up and I be like, I be want to say, like, you know, I don't know, man. Then I try to avoid them kind of conflicts because I ain't got time for all that arguing and all that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I'm a grown man. Like I say, I engage in grown folks conversation, you know, and what we could do to fix things. You know, some people like to argue and talk about this and talk about that. You know, to me, that ain't doing nothing. That's just like what Brother Malcolm said. You know, leave your religion. And when I say religion, that means to me, leave your ideology, leave your fucked up beliefs in the closet. You know, leave that shit over there when you come in to a conversation, a conference, or whatever, where us black men and women sitting down talking about how we gonna empower ourselves, how we gonna progress. You know what I'm saying? You leave that other bullshit alone. That's the way to progress right there. Because if we bring the other bullshit, like Malcolm said, all we're gonna do is what? Argue, fuss, and fight. It ain't nothing gonna happen.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, no, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, my brother. I didn't mean to go on that whole tangent, you know. And you know what? Let's wrap it up with some heroes, my brother. We're gonna talk about some positive stuff to wrap it up. Let's talk about some of our heroes, you know.
Oh, hey, 4K.
Yeah.
I want to. Hey, before you do that, I want when are you go? You know, we was talking offline. When were you gonna do the Burundi the history thing? The conflict.
No. That was I'm working on the part of the book that I'm on now. That's the part I'm on. So I was just
Yeah.
watching like documentaries on the one from 1972.
Yeah, okay, because I was wondering. I was thinking. I thought we was gonna do it tonight and
Oh
everything.
no,
But you know, okay. So that's for another time. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually a part of like that part of the book is probably not even gonna be out for a long time. That's what I'm on now as far as the book though. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm in 1972. I just finished Idi Amin, and then now I'm
Uh,
on the Burundi joint and the first one. You know,
yeah.
in 72.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I got you. And I know you're gonna cover everything. But yeah.
nah, tell
I
me
mean,
everything tell me what you know about it because
okay. Yeah.
I'm doing research on
My
that part now.
yeah. Because my research about one interesting thing about Burundi and Rwanda, those two nations, because they're both similar nations with the same population. You know what I'm saying? Burundi is a nation that is like about 85 to 90% the ethnic group of the Hutu people. It was about 10-15% of the population of the Tutsi people. It is the same dynamic in Rwanda, like the 10%, 15% of the people of Tutsi people, and 85%, 90% of the people are Hutu people. And okay, one interesting thing about these two kingdoms, they were not European colonies, in a way to like say Nigeria was a made up country. The Europeans created Nigeria. No, the Europeans created Ghana, in other countries. No, they were colonies that were created. But see, Burundi and Rwanda were actual kingdoms. They were pre-colonial kingdoms. There was a kingdom of Burundi. There was a kingdom of Rwanda. And Rwanda's history actually went back hundreds of years. I mean, not just to the 1700s, it went back to around 1100. Okay, so it was one of the oldest continuous, kingdoms, political states in Africa. And Burundi became a kingdom around the in the late 1600s, around like 1680. I think the first king was Intare the First, who was the first king. And it was around in 1680. And for a long time, Burundi, had been like a powerhouse kingdom in that part of East Africa, in the area known as the Great Lakes region. And the kingdom of Burundi lasted as a kingdom on up to the mid 60s when the last king was overthrown. I mean, of course, they went through the little period where in the 1890s to like right after the European War One, where the Germans had kind of influence. They like that indirect rule. The king, they kept the king. He was a puppet king, but they kept the king on the throne and looked like it was an independent king. But they was under German influence. And then after the Europeans took the Germans colonies, they was under the Belgians from the end of the first European war until the early 60s when it became independent. Yeah, so that's kind of give you a format of Burundi's history. I know that when they became independent, their first leader was a prince. His name was Louis Rwagasore, and he was a Pan-Africanist. And he was a prince. He was in the royal family, and he became prime minister. Now he was a real Pan-Africanist who he didn't want to have nothing to do with the French. He was going to throw their influence out and everything. And he was actually assassinated by a French mercenary, by a man who was in the hire of the French. It was that he assassinated the prince.
You said
The
his
prince,
name.
he was
Oh,
like,
tell yo.
his name was
I'm gonna ask you afterwards. Never mind. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, his name was Louis Rwagasore. Prince Louis Rwagasore. He was murdered like when the country was on the brink of independence, like it was going to be independent. He was going to be the first prime minister. And he got killed. They poisoned him. He got poisoned by this French agent. Yeah, and actually they caught the man. I think the man might have been Greek or something like that, but he was working for the French. And the Burundian government, they actually executed him. The man who killed him. But yeah, he was a brother. He was associated. He was in league with Patrice Lumumba and them and Kwame Nkrumah. He was a real Pan-Africanist who wanted to run the European influence out of Africa. His name was Louis Rwagasore. And it was after that where, you started getting all of with the rise of the tension, the ethnic tension between the Hutu and the Tutsis. You had the same thing in Rwanda with this president named Gregor Kayibanda, who became the first president of Rwanda. But yeah, I don't want to give it all away, man. But I'm just giving you a little background of the history of those two countries, particularly Burundi, but of both countries because they have a similar history.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you to text me the brother name so I can look it up tomorrow. But because I ain't know that, so yeah, and that's some stuff that I want to include. That's why I'm like I did the research, but that was like 5 years ago, so I can't even remember. So that's why I'm like doing the whole research again on that thing right now. Um. So yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna get you to text me some of that stuff. But all right, let me finish with this because I think it's still a couple more minutes, and I don't want to
The
go too much
benefits you
longer.
got and the better you were treated. The darker you are, the worse you were treated. Now, don't get me wrong, even though this was generally a class and issue amongst people, I'm not saying every single person, just like not every single fully black person was on the same side. Because there were some fully black people who were doing the same, trying to dress, walk, and talk and act like the French. And a few of them even owned slaves, even though French law did not protect their right to own property. But they tried to practice all the same methods as the French. And when the revolution did get started, some of them even fought with the French against the rebels. But they learned, along with the mulattoes, a lesson it seems like we still have to learn today. They will never accept us as the same as them. They didn't see them as equal to them. And they were never going to give them the same rights and benefits. But a lot of black people realized that even back then. And a lot of enslaved people ended up escaping and organizing with each other in swampy areas so they wouldn't be caught. But they met and they organized and they planned to fight back. Now, one of the areas they met, and forgive my pronunciation, Boykaema, and again, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, but that's where a priest named Duddy Bookman led the ceremony and offered his prayer, get them mentally prepared before leading them into battle.
The God who created the earth, who created the sun that gives us light, the God who holds up the oceans, who make the thunder roar, our God, who has ears to hear, you who are hidden in the clouds, who watch us from where you are. You see all that the white has made us suffer. The white man's God asked him to commit crimes, but the God within us wants to do good. Our God, who is so good, so just, he ordered us to avenge our wrong. It is he who will direct our arms and bring us the victory. It is he who will assist us. We all should throw away the image of the white man's God, who is so pitiless. Listen to the voice for liberty.
So that's the way.
Things in all our hearts. This prayer was prayed August 14th, 1791. This was the prayer that called to action the Haitian Revolution, which started on August 22nd, 1791. Long live our ancestors, Dutty Bookman.
Now, during the ceremony, they perform voodoo rituals. And by the way, voodoo is not some negative or bad thing. And it's not necessarily some spooked out thing. But anyway, they perform these rituals to prepare themselves mentally for what they were about to do. And in this case, they called on the spirit of Ogun, which they were basically calling on the spirit of a warrior to come and help them in battle. And they also made a vow of silence with each other that nobody would say anything, no snitching, until it was time to go down. And once the rebellion actually started, they got momentum really fast. Nearly 100,000 people joined them to help them fight back. And they ended up killing nearly 4,000 white people and destroyed about 900 plantations.
Colonial whites felt profoundly betrayed. Some, such as a planter's wife named Madame de Rouvray, began discussing radical thoughts of their own.
The National Assembly is committed to destroying our lives as masters, so much so that secession from France might be necessary. The slave owners of America, I hope, will band together to stop this contagion of liberty.
Boukman Dati was a slave and a voodoo priest.
Throw away the image of the God of the whites who thirst for our tears, and listen to the voice of liberty which speaks in the hearts of all of us.
In August 1791, as Saint-Domingue's white and mixed-race population squared off for a showdown, Boukman called together slaves from neighboring plantations. They'd been kidnapped from different parts of Africa, and the voodoo religion was their common culture.
Le vaudou, c'est l'esprit de nos ancêtres, c'est une religion. C'est le mode de vie de l'Haïtien. C'est plus qu'une religion, c'est notre façon de vivre, c'est notre force de... Le vaudou est libérateur, le vaudou est dignité, le vaudou est sagesse, et le vaudou, c'est notre tradition.
Boukman had called them to an area called Wakaima. First on the agenda was strategy.
That ceremony of Wakaima is the first Haitian Congress, the beginning of the revolution.
C'est dans cette réunion où l'Africain décide de n'être plus esclave, d'être libre, déjà là dans la tête, de casser cette chaîne dans la tête, de dire voilà, à partir de cette cérémonie, on prend l'Africain a pris son destin en main.
Haitian tradition says the slaves of Saint-Domingue planned that night to revolt. They timed their uprising to start on multiple plantations in 2 weeks' time. And they swore each other to secrecy.
The God of the white man calls him to commit crimes. Our God orders revenge. He will direct our hands. He will aid us.
On the night of August 22nd, 1791, 1,000 enslaved Africans attacked their masters.
Les esclaves empoisonnaient, les esclaves piquaient, les esclaves tuaient, les esclaves voulaient leur indépendance.
For them to be free, they have to have the same amount of violence that you exerted on them.
Say that again, brother. For them to be
right,
free, the same amount of violence.
This is that hatred in the first day that came out.
It's not hatred, it's self-love. The love for self to be free came out.
The rebel numbers grew from 1,000 to 20,000 as newly liberated slaves burned cane fields and refineries in order to destroy the system that had enslaved them. Within 3 days, the most profitable plantations in the Americas had been laid waste, 184 sugar plantations and 1,000 coffee farms. Whites and mixed-race people fled to the capital city for mutual protection. From there, they watched firestorms on all horizons.
You've got a fiery cataclysm of enormous scale. I mean, the people on ships in the harbor supposedly could read their mail by the light of these fires that were, 10, 15, 20 miles away, to give you some faint idea of what this would have been like if you were there.
Now, their revolution has so much of an impact from the very beginning.
Only a little bit more.
Offering them citizenship, hoping it'll make them stop. Now, they took it right back a few months later, and then they just tried to send troops to go in and take control of the land. But by then, it was already too late, and the people had burned down the ports. So it was very hard for them to get in. Now, before we go too far with it, and we're going to come back to this in a second, but one thing we got to understand is this revolution was a long time coming. And this certainly wasn't even the first rebellion in Haiti. Now, decades before the revolution, a brother named Francois Mackendal, and again, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, I was colonized by the British, not the French. But Francois Mackendal freed himself and was determined to fight back against the Europeans. So he started teaching other slaves how to poison slave owners and overseers without them finding out.
He called himself the Black Messiah. Mackandal declared war on the French, leading raids on plantations and poisonings throughout the colony. But not everyone would join the revolution. The free blacks and mulattoes had been treated well by certain planters. They had property and money. Without their support, Mackandal's forces could not afford artillery, so instead of guns, Mackandal chose to use poison. This man is a voodoo priest and claims he becomes possessed with the spirit of Mackandal. His family is reportedly among the very few still in possession of the oral history. He says that Mackandal abandoned Haiti because he could not get the people to unite as one.
Chaque nèg comme ça et puis bon Dieu 20 août vient arriver et puis difficile pendant esclave pendant ces temps noir mourir esclave mourir avec bon.
Now I will say it's interesting, right? He was like Mackandal is like forget it because I'll never get you Negroes to unite, but I don't think Mackandal would say that. I think Mackandal would be like, yo, you Negroes won't unite, but I'm going to die trying. You know what I'm saying?
Les armes français ont gagné. Et puis, Mackandal, pendant un marronnage là, l'aile de bataille là, trop noir pour mourir. Les célestes a venu présenter avec Agaou dans la tête. On l'a quitté l'Agaou. Ouais, bah, il nous faut.
After 12 years of raids and small attacks, he planned a major assault, distributing packets of poison to thousands throughout Saint-Domingue. His plan was to poison the French, and while they were in the throes of death, his forces would descend from the hills to finish the battle. The French fought back by torturing slaves relentlessly for information. And at a dance called Calenda, similar perhaps to this one, held at the Dufresne plantation, a slave betrayed Mackandal. Was an easy target for his enemies. He was then taken by guards and tied up in the office of the plantation. The men went to get soldiers, but when they returned, the ropes were on the ground and Mackandal was gone. The dogs were brought in and a full search of the area was launched. Mackandal was captured. He was about 30 years old. After a mock trial, Mackandal was taken here to the center of town to be burned at the stake. Slaves were gathered from throughout the colony to witness the punishment of their devoted leader. When Mackandal was brought out in chains, he was brash and fearless, and he talked to the crowd of slaves. The day was January 20, 1758. He made a promise to all those present, saying that he would return as a mosquito to do more damage than ever before. The fire was lit around him, and the flames leapt higher and higher until he was completely engulfed. Then suddenly, with a loud cry, Mackandal broke free and leaped out of the fire. The slaves claimed he jumped into the crowd and escaped. The French soldiers claimed they retrieved him and threw him back into the fire. Mackandal was never seen again. 33 years later, a voodoo priest by the name of Boukman gathered heads of the secret societies at Bois Caiman, the same place where Mackandal drew crowds of slaves. Boukman began the revolution with the same maroon colony Mackandal had trained and organized before. This time, all blacks united.
Now, Mackandal was...
All right, and maybe we should talk about this next time to give him the respect that he deserves, you know. But what they're trying to say is like, oh yeah, Mackandal could have came back as Duddy Bookman, you know what I'm saying? But who knows, you know? But he said he was going to come back as a mosquito and hunt as many people, as many crackers as he could, you know what I'm saying? That's how much of a warrior he was, you know? And look, you know, well, here it is. How many people, how many crackers do mosquitoes kill per year? Well, 725,000 to over 1 million people die every year from mosquito bites and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? But the brother probably has taken out a lot of them. So shouts out to that brother, you know what I mean? But we'll go more because I had the 1791 at the beginning of it, and then of course Mackendall and Duddy Bookman as well. But well, this one is short.
Leader who was an African-born Jamaican man that played a major part in Dudley Bookman was an African-born Jamaican man that played a major.
Now keep in mind, African Jamaican brother who led a Haitian revolution.
Dudley Bookman was an African-born Jamaican man that played a major part in inspiring the Haitian Revolution. He was born in Senegambia, Africa, but was later shipped to Jamaica. While in Jamaica, he was caught teaching other slaves how to read, so he was shipped to Saint Domingue, which is modern-day Haiti. He got the name Bookman because he taught himself how to read. He was a spiritual leader whose prayers and rituals inspired many slaves. Scholars aren't sure exactly which form of African spirituality he practiced, but they know for sure that he definitely was not Christian. He once said, "If you want to win, cast aside your white God, embrace your African spirituality. You are free." He held multiple prominent positions. He used this opportunity to plan secret meetings with the slaves to teach them the importance of being free. 1 week after a pivotal meeting and a spiritual ceremony, the Haitian Revolution began. Shortly after, Bookman was captured and beheaded. His head was put on display to instill fear into the other slaves. All this did was piss them off even more. The revolution raged on, eventually leading to the independence of Haiti. Bookman is remembered for his leadership skills, courage, and his fearlessness. One of his ideologies was only a false god would convince a man that he has dominion over earth. He believed that man should live harmoniously with the earth because everything on earth is precious and important.
All right, well, we ain't gonna talk about these false gods and stuff now, but that's a whole nother conversation. And this is another conversation too, which we don't have time for, but I ain't even know this, but the Haitians and Jamaicans was beefing too. Like they was clashing with each other. Like damn Negroes. Maybe
My question is,
maybe Mackendall was right. He was
why are we
like
beefing? Because
he left. He was
we
like, I'm
are
tired
the
of this.
same color, which is black. We are all Caribbean, and we're not too far away from Jamaica. So what's the deal? And
This is a whole nother conversation that we'll have to do next time. But my brother, you want to say while we on the positive stuff, I'm not gonna go into any more negative stuff. But unless you want to say something about it, but
yeah, well, people have rivalries, man. People have rivalries. Like hey, like I mentioned earlier, in Jamaica is one of the most stratified, places in the Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? Where they have, where you have the black people, the black Jamaicans who are definitely 100% African, black, and then you have the brown and the tan. I mean, you would believe that, because you always hear about Jamaica out of many and one and all this stuff. But it's heavily stratified. That's one of the reasons why Marcus Garvey left. No, not the only reason, but one of the reasons. Marcus Garvey talked about his homeland real bad. About these people don't want to be free. He always said that. You know what I'm saying? And like especially with Haiti having the tradition that it has, of being, the first independent, black nation, in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas, in this part of the world, from enslavement and everything. And, with some people might look at Haitians like some people look at the Africans in America like, oh, they arrogant, or they think they this, they think they the best of the black people. You know what I'm saying? And then you have like with the economic situations in Haiti, a lot of Haitians go all over the diaspora. And so even right now, you could like Barna. I remember having this conversation with Barna before, about the Haitians in the Bahamas. You know what I'm saying? And how, you would hear some Bahamian people talking, and it sound like some FBA stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, get them Haitians out of here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, not to cut you
You
off
know,
too, but just to add to what you're saying, because I want you to add to that too. We was just talking about with Cassidra, South Africa,
okay.
and Ghana, and how they was kicking out the black, quote unquote
Yeah, yeah,
immigrants and stuff.
yeah. Okay. Now, now we know one thing. We know where they come from. Always beware the hidden hand. Now, see, when they in the 1990s, in the early 90s, when they let old Uncle Nelson Mandela out of prison, see, the white folks had a plan. You know, they had a plan. Like I said that time that they were smart. Well, I meant evil is smart. I mean, I don't mean smart like intelligent, but they cunning like a fox, a wild animal that want to make you his dessert, his dinner. They always plotting. You know what I'm saying? And while we get caught up in symbolism, like, okay, 1994, South Africa is finally free. Nelson Mandela is president, the first black president, and everybody happy. Okay, all the time, the white folks in South Africa say, okay, we're not the government no more. We're not the government that you see no more. You know, you got the ANC, the government now. But behind the scenes, we control the land, we control the resources, we control the mineral wealth, we control everything, the economy, we control everything. Nelson Mandela is our boy. We put him in there. We've been grooming him for the last 15, 20 years. You know, the man was a sellout when he walked out of the penitentiary. And they made him president. It was a sellout all the time. Okay, but getting to the point about the against the anti-immigration, the anti-black immigrant thing. Well, that framework was created by the whites, by the white South Africa, the power structure South Africa. They had that in place before independence. That's why all the time during the 80s, see, you couldn't remember. I was a grown man in my 20s. I can remember where you had the ANC and where you had the Pan-African Congress, the PFC. You had the Zulu-based party called the Inkatha Freedom Party. See, even right then, white folks was like the Zulus under the Inkatha Freedom Party under Chief Buthelezi. No, they was the puppets of the white government. They were the ones who was keeping up all the mess. You know what I'm saying? At that time, no, they was doing armed conflict in the streets, man, with old 19th century weapons. I mean, like spears and stuff. Killing people, killing each other, large scale massacring each other. You know, the ANC and the Inkatha, and the other groups, because that was all part of the destabilization program. The white people seeing that, the white folks seeing, okay, the handwriting on the wall. We could no longer be apartheid South Africa. We can't be that government because we got sanctions all around. All of the world is against us. As far as that part, you know what I'm saying? So what we got to do, we got to redress it. But see, they said, but why we doing this? Why we redressing it? How we gonna reestablish our power after we get them that flag independence? We're gonna make it so it's gonna be hard as hell for them to run this country. Because you know what? South Africa got different ethnic groups. It has the Zulu people, it has the Xhosa people, it got the Basotho people, it got the Ndebele people, the Swana people. It got different ethnic groups. And no ethnic group, and they exacerbate those differences. It's to the point where no ethnic group, hey, well, this Zulu ain't gonna tell me what to do. Or this ain't gonna tell me what to do. And on top of that, they came with the anti-immigrant thing. Now, it was white folks who bringing these people from other countries into the country, from Zambia, from Mozambique, and all that there. So they're the ones who bringing them in, to get. It's just like how, they bring Pakistanis and all these people come to America, to the United States, and come to black neighborhoods and start these little corner stores. But that's the same thing doing over there. But what happened, the majority of black people in South Africa are poor, man. Are poor. They don't have a huge middle class. The majority of those people are poor. Even right now, like I said, white folks still own 75% of the land. They don't control the economy. Black people don't run shit, but they mouth in South Africa. You know what I'm saying? So here you go. You got the local black people, who don't have nothing and trying to get something. Then you have these immigrants, from neighboring black nations who coming in, who probably had a little money, parlay some money to come in and start up a business and everything. Okay. And next thing you know, somebody put that bug in the ear. Oh, these immigrants coming in and taking over and starting businesses and messing with our women and all this whole stuff. White folks started that bullshit. And that's to keep destabilization. That's what it is, to keep destabilization. It's the same thing here, where you talk about how you had these certain group of black people, some immigrants and tellers and all this shit. They coming to replace us to be the new black people and all this shit. Man, all that shit come from the top down, man. That come from for destabilization. Because one thing that white folks don't never want to see is black people coming together on a global scale. You know what I'm saying? We could put aside our differences, what country we from and our cultures and language, stuff like that, but just rally around what Marcus Garvey said, our race. When we do that and start looking out for ourselves and putting ourselves first, man, white folks they hate that shit. Because they know that's the end of their domination in our lives. And so that's all that is, bro. When you see that stuff, that's the stabilization. To keep that country, to keep those never having a stable government in that country when black folks finally do take over. You know what I'm saying? They was thinking ahead. See, the apartheid, the white folks thought 2 steps ahead. They say, okay, we gotta step down and let these niggas come up, these Negroes come up and be in office. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna run shit from behind the scene and we're gonna do everything. It's just what they did in Haiti. Haiti won the battle on the war on the battlefield. But after the battlefield? After the war on the battlefield, now you got to deal with economic things and trade. How you get get an embargo placed against you, embargo against your products and everything. You can't trade all this stuff. We're gonna do whatever we could do to stranglehold you. You know what I'm saying? That's what that's all about, man. That's what that's all about. Yeah, I don't want to go on too long, but there you go.
No, I agree. I agree with what you're saying. Same thing with the Jamaican versus this, and the African brother, the Igbo versus this, and you know what I'm saying. Like we find every single division, Christian versus Muslim. You know what I'm saying. But we gonna show off 52 teeth to everybody else, especially that white boy and especially the white girl. You know what I'm saying. But I appreciate you for coming on here, my brother. I ain't mean for this one to be so long, but I definitely appreciate your time. And shouts out to Raw in the building. Yeah, example of a clone. It is what it is. And shouts out to Melanated Goddess. I appreciate her for coming through. It's been a minute since she's been on here. Shouts out to Karma 804. I always appreciate you coming on here.
Hey, yeah, man, you know what? I just want to say, man, shout out to Melanated Goddess. I've been seeing her for years and years. You know what I'm saying? I mean, for years. I mean, for at least about probably about 5-6 years. I think I've been seeing her on social media, on different shows that I was on, that I may have been, in the chat, contributing. I see her name over there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And yeah, and that's the first. I'm like you. That's the first time I've seen her name in a while, man. Yeah, but I think I follow her on Facebook or IG. I've been seeing her for years, her site and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Shouts out to her because she used to come on, jump on the panels and everything. So shouts out to her. Cassidra in the building. It's what time is it? It's probably like 7:30, 8:30 in the morning, or it's 5:30. So it's like 7:30 in the morning over there. Shouts out to Cassidra in the building. We're gonna be back Wednesday with another great topic with Cassidra. You got to go back and listen to this one. I ain't mean to make it so long, but you got to go back and listen to it. It was a lot of good topics, and just to wrap it up, I'm gonna let this brother have the last words, just because this is what we was talking about, and I got to do it for y'all precious
All right, peace out,
mulattoes.
forecast. Peace out, everybody, man. Peace out, everybody.
Yeah, shouts out to my brother Anthony. Appreciate you coming through, man. Much love, my brother.
And I have studied it down through the ages. But I have always threatened to write a massive book about it and never wrote a line. I write out the title for the book. And I talk out chapters in the book, but I never write the book. It is so delicate and dangerous and so painful that a person like me, who opened many doors and talked about many things, even at the risk of being killed, hadn't even put it down. The book is called The Role of the Bastard as a Factor in History.
I'll write the book for you, brother. I ain't worried about no heart attacks.
How people have bastardized other people through their women and used the bastard to control them. Then having used the bastard, refused to accept the bastard in the home of the father that created him and send him back to his mother's people to start confusion.
Yes, like it will. Yes.
When and if I dared, and somebody gonna have to give me a bodyguard 24 hours a day if I ever did, I would have to write about how they literally destroyed the Haitian Revolution. How the mulatto generals, sons and daughters of the French black mothers and French fathers betrayed the Haitian Revolution and went over to the French against Toussaint Louverture.
Wait till y'all see what the sons of the Asians do over in Africa.
A French general who hated both blacks and mulattoes called Rochambeau. He was going to teach the mulattoes a lesson. That I hate you just as much as I hate the blackest of the blacks. So he gave a gala party for the wives of the mulatto generals. At the end of the party, he said, I have some presents for you, ladies, in some boxes. So go in the room and open the boxes. It was the heads of their husbands. He had cut their heads off to show you I have just as much contempt for you yellow niggas as I have for the blackest of the blacks. The Rochambeau incident in Haitian history was so embarrassing and so painful. Most Haitian historians have written it and left it out. Couldn't face it. Too embarrassing. And Christophe, one of the last of the powerful of the three generals, mentioned it in passing. One of the last of the mulatto governors, Pétain, when they were arguing about democracy or dictatorship, Christophe had a dictatorship, but everybody was fed and going to school and doing well. And Pétain had another part of the island that was called a democracy, modeled after Europe, but everybody was starving over there. And when he faced Christophe, he said that if the French, Christophe had been a stable boy and head waiter in the French inn, also fought in the American Revolution, but that's another story. But when he faced Christophe, he said, if the French had killed you, I wouldn't have you to contend with. And Christophe's answer was classic. If your mother had the common decency to keep Frenchmen out of her bed, I wouldn't have you to contend with. Now, after the death of Christophe, supposedly engineered by the mulattoes, they came to power, begging for French acceptance and got it. He adopted a French constitution that crippled Haiti and killed the revolutionary spirit of Haiti to this very day. French white nationalism and French bastardization killed that nation before it could get born. I don't have enough handkerchiefs to write the book. Maybe let me go along with my lecture notes. I'm too old and I've had one stroke already. Come on.
Well, I'm young enough, my elder brother, and I haven't had any strokes, all right? And I got enough tissue, so I can write this book about the It sounds like Haiti lost, right? And it sounds like because of the mulatto, but that's a whole nother like we're gonna continue to explore this. But I guess the lesson in all of that is if you stay out of Neanderthals' beds, you wouldn't have to worry about them in the first place, right? You wouldn't be creating them in the first place. So leave them white girls alone, leave them white boys alone, and stick to your own. And I'll see y'all Wednesday. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're gonna keep falling for anything.